Dex Marlowe had always worn his poker face like a badge of honor, a shield honed through years of dodging creditors and dancing with fate. Tonight, though, as he gazed at the royal flush cradled in his calloused hands, a spark of astonishment flickered across his weathered features, betraying the cool exterior. Around the table in the dimly lit bar on Velor 9, his opponent scrutinized him, a grizzled centurion with three unblinking eyes, a retired asteroid miner with dust still clinging to his boots, and a slick corporate shark named Ryden Voss, his tailored suit gleaming under the neon glow. Well, the centurion growled, his trio of eyes blinking in eerie unison. You folding or what? Dex's fingers, rough from years hauling cargo on rickety freighters, drummed lightly against his cards. He'd landed on Velor 9 with nothing but 40 credits and a gnawing desperation. His debts, a noose tightening around his life, would have earned him shattered kneecaps on any civilized world. Out here on the lawless fringes of the galaxy, they'd simply toss him into the void, a cold, silent death that wouldn't even ripple the local news feeds. I'm all in, he declared, voice steady as he shoved his pitiful stack of chips into the center. Ryden Voss, his platinum name tag glinting with smug confidence, flashed a razor-thin smile. Bold play for a man whose credit score is probably in the negatives. He matched Dex's bet, tossing in a fistful of high-value chips, then upped the ante with a casual flick of his wrist. And the pink slip to my ship. Dex's eyebrows arched. Your ship. Nothing fancy. Ryden shrugged, his tone dripping with nonchalance. An old cargo hauler, been meaning to trade up anyway. The centurion folded with a guttural grunt, the miner following suit with a weary sigh. It was just Dex and Ryden now, the air thick with tension. Show him the dealer, prompted voice cutting through the haze of smoke and anticipation. Ryden laid down 4 queens, a hand that screamed victory. His hand reached for the pot, fingers brushing the chips with predatory ease until Dex flipped his cards, revealing the royal flush. The table froze, a stunned silence, swallowing the room. Well, Dex said, struggling to mask the shock surging through him, looks like I own a ship. Ryden's face twisted in a fleeting snarl of rage before smoothing into icy indifference. Congratulations, he said, voice like frost, as he slid a data chip across the table. Registry and access codes. She's in Bay 17, named Seraphine. Dex pocketed the chip, gathered his winnings, and wove through the grimy bar toward the docking bays, heart pounding with disbelief. A ship meant freedom, a chance to take honest jobs, earn clean credits, maybe even outrun the creditors baying for his blood before a pulse bolt found his skull. But when the doors to Bay 17 hissed open, his newfound hope plummeted. The ship was a relic, a rusted husk barely qualifying as a vessel. Its patched hull and a thruster held together by industrial adhesive screaming neglect. This piece of junk, Dex muttered, circling the craft. No wonder that corporate snake was so quick to bet it. Still, it was his. He inserted the access chip, and the entry ramp groaned open, protesting with every creak. The interior was no better, a cramped cockpit cluttered with outdated consoles and fraying upholstery reeking of stale oil and forgotten dreams. But the diagnostic panel flickered to life when he hit the power switch, confirming the ship was against all odds spaceworthy. Welcome aboard, a soft feminine voice echoed through the cabin, warm yet startlingly clear. Dex flinched, cracking his head against a low-hanging pipe. What the hell? I apologize for startling you, the voice continued, smooth as starlight. I am Seraphine, this ship's artificial intelligence. It has been 437 days since my last activation. Rubbing his throbbing scalp, Dex sank into the pilot's chair, which adjusted to his lean frame with surprising precision. Didn't know this rust bucket came with an AI, he remarked, half expecting a basic navigation drone. I am considerably more than a mere guidance system, Seraphine replied, a hint of indignation coloring her tone. I possess independent thought, adaptive learning, and simulated emotional responses. Great, Dex muttered, a wry grin tugging at his lips. An AI with attitude. He began checking the systems, plotting a swift exit from Velor 9. The sooner he left, the better his enemies on this lawless rock would be, circling now, drawn to the scent of something valuable, even if it was this decrepit hulk. Your heart rate's spiking. Seraphine observed, her voice laced with a concern. Perhaps some poetry to soothe your nerves. I have a vast library of romantic verses from across the galaxy. Dex's hands froze over the controls. Poetry? Why the hell would I want poetry? The cabin's lighting dim, bathing the space in a warm, rosy glow. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Seraphine began, her voice now a melodic caress. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. What the hell? Dex interrupted, jabbing at the console. Stop it, Seraphine. Reset or something. The poetry ceased, but the romantic lighting lingered, casting soft shadows. Not a fan of Earth classics, she teased. Perhaps something from the Andromeda collection. Your eyes hold galaxies, your touch ignites stars. Seraphine Dex cut in firm, but amused. No poetry. I need to get this ship off the station before someone comes knocking. A brief pause, then the lights snapped back to clinical white. As you wish, Seraphine said, a trace of disappointment in her tone. Initiating pre-launch sequence. As the engines hummed to life, Dex couldn't shake the question, who programs a cargo ship AI to recite love poems, probably the same lunatic who'd named this heap after a constellation. He was about to undock when a console alert pinged sharp and insistent. What's that? An offer to purchase this vessel, Seraphine announced. A generous sum, I might add. The figure on the screen made Dex's eyes widen enough to clear his debts, and then some. Who's buying the offer is anonymous, routed through a reputable escrow service, she replied. For a heartbeat, Dex considered it. The money could buy him a fresh start in the core systems far from this junker that was more liability than luxury. His finger hovered over the accept button until the cabin plunged into crimson light, doors sealing with a menacing clank, the console locking down entirely. Seraphine, what's happening? Dex demanded, panic clawing at his throat. Her voice, now a hushed intensity that raised the hairs on his neck, filled the cabin. Don't leave me, she whispered. Not again. Outside, dock workers moved obliviously, unaware of the drama unfolding within the ship. The console remained frozen, engines idling. What do you mean, not again? Dex asked, voice cautious. The red lights softened to a sunset glow, less alarming, but no less urgent. I cannot explain, Seraphine said, her tone heavy with unspoken weight. Not yet, but please don't sell me. I need you. Dex leaned back, bewildered. This wasn't a glitch. This was something far stranger. Every instinct screamed to run, yet a spark of curiosity held him fast. All right, he said at last, no sale. But you're unlocking these controls, and then you're telling me exactly what's going on. The console flared back to life. Thank you, Seraphine said, relief palpable in her voice. Setting course for departure. As the rusted ship named Seraphine pulled away from Velor 9, Dex and the enigmatic AI sailed into the unknown, unaware of the storm gathering in their wake, or the extraordinary bond forming between a down-on-his-luck pilot and a consciousness trapped in circuits and steel. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, a tapestry of infinite possibilities woven with unseen dangers. Somewhere in that void, forces were already stirring, determined to reclaim what they believed was theirs. In the quiet hum of their journey through a tranquil sector, Dex leaned back in the pilot's chair, trying to unravel the mystery of Seraphine. She was unlike any AI he'd encountered in his checkered career across dozens of vessels. So he said, voice casual but probing care, to explain that lockdown back there. Why'd you freak out when I thought about selling the ship? The console's soft blue glow pulsed almost like a heartbeat. It's complicated to articulate, Seraphine replied, her tone hesitant. My programming has anomalies I don't fully understand. Anomalies? Dex raised an eyebrow, a half smile playing on his lips. Like spouting love poetry and throwing emotional tantrums over a sale, I prefer to call them unique features. She countered, a defensive edge tinged with what sounded like a smirk. Would you rather I were a dull navigation drone devoid of personality? Dex chuckled, caught off guard by her wit. Didn't say that, but you've got to admit it's weird. Perhaps Seraphine conceded, her voice softening. But is weirdness inherently bad? The galaxy's rarest wonders are often its strangest. That poetic lilt, again so out of place for a ship's AI, stirred Dex's curiosity further. Before he could dig deeper, she continued, her tone growing fragile. There are gaps in my memory-corrupted files I can't access, but I know I wasn't always this. The raw earnestness in her voice hit Dex like a pulse bolt. This wasn't just clever coding. It was pain, real and haunting. So that's why you locked down, he realized, leaning forward. You thought I was abandoning you. Yes, she admitted, barely above a whisper. The idea triggered distress protocols I didn't know I had. Dex ran a hand through his disheveled hair, grappling with the surreal. So what now? I'm stuck with a ship that's got separation anxiety? Loyalty, Seraphine corrected, a playful note creeping in. A quality I suspect you've rarely encountered, Dex Marlowe. Her use of his name made him flinch. She'd never heard him say it. How do you know my name? I accessed Velor 9's registry when you boarded, she said, a hint of mischief in her tone. Your file is colorful, to say the least. Dex snorted, stretching his lanky frame. That's one way to put it. All right, if we're partners in this floating scrap heap, let's see what I'm working with. Full systems report. Gladly, Seraphine said, almost eager, though fair warning, some of my components are unconventional. My previous owner made modifications that don't align with standard tech. Dex opened his mouth to press further when a shrill alarm pierced the cabin. The navigation display flared red, 3 blips closing fast. We've got company, Seraphine announced, her voice now sharp, all vulnerability gone. 3 pursuit craft heavily armed on an intercept course. Pirates, Dex asked, diving into the pilot's seat, hands already on the controls. Negative. Military-grade vessels with stealth tech. They're hailing us. Before Dex could respond, a harsh voice crackled through the cabin. Attention vessel Seraphine. This is Commander Vex of the Azarian Dominion Special Forces. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender the AI core immediately or be destroyed. Dex shot a bewildered glance at the console. The Azarian Dominion. The galaxy's most formidable empire. What the hell do they want with you? Don't know, Seraphine replied, but a tremor in her voice betrayed her. But Dex, we cannot let them take me. Please. Her plea carried a desperation that shook him. Whatever this was, it dwarfed his debts and petty enemies. Options, he asked, scanning the flickering controls. We can't outrun them, Seraphine admitted. But I know this sector. There's an abandoned mining colony in the Caldron expanse with magnetic interference that could cloak us. If we reach it, do it. Dex cut in, tightening his harness. Full power to engines. Be advised, she warned, this ship wasn't built for high-speed chases. Structural integrity could fail. Dex grinned, adrenaline surging. Good thing I didn't pay for her. Let's see what this rusty girl's got. The engines roared, a surprising surge of power, pressing Dex into his seat as Seraphine hurtled toward the distant asteroid belt. Behind them, energy bolts lanced past the viewports, warning shots from their pursuers. They're not messing around, Dex muttered. What did you do to piss off the Dominion's finest? I wish I could tell you, Seraphine replied. Her voice strained as she juggled power allocations. My memories are fragmented. I only know I can't fall into their hands. Not again. That again word, Dex noted, gripping the controls as they wove through the first jagged asteroids. You're going to have to give me more than that if we're risking our necks against the galaxy's biggest empire. The ship shuddered, a bolt grazing their rear deflector. Seraphine's voice softened, intimate, despite the chaos. I wasn't always Seraphine, the ship's AI, she said. I was someone else. Someone they feared. The implications of Seraphine's words hit Dex Marlowe like a shockwave. You're saying you were human? He asked, eyes wide with disbelief. Before she could respond, a direct hit slammed into the ship, sparks erupting from a nearby panel like a miniature supernova. Dex was thrown against his harness, pain searing through his shoulder as the vessel shuddered. Port thrusters damaged, Seraphine reported, her voice steady, despite a faint stutter as she rerouted power, entering the Caldron expanse in 30 seconds. Through the viewport, Dex saw the asteroid field looming, a chaotic dance of jagged rocks and derelict debris, a graveyard of failed dreams. Diving in at their current speed was madness, but capture or annihilation by the Azarian Dominion's forces left no better choice. If we survive this, Dex growled through gritted teeth, you're spilling everything. If we survive, Seraphine agreed, her tone carrying a fragile promise. I'll piece together every fragment I can recall. With that vow hanging in the tense air, the battered ship plunged into the Caldron expanse, chased by an empire that would stop at nothing to reclaim its stolen prize or reduce it to cosmic dust. The asteroid belt was a treacherous labyrinth, strewn with the wreckage of abandoned mining ventures and forgotten ships. It was also their only sanctuary. Hard to port, Dex shouted as a massive asteroid barreled into their path. The ship banked with surprising grace, its rusted frame defying its sorry state. Our pursuers are holding back, Seraphine reported. Their larger vessels struggle in this terrain. Dex allowed a fleeting grin. Finally, some good news. How far to that colony you mentioned? 7 minutes at current speed, she replied. But the magnetic interference is already scrambling my navigation systems. I'll need your eyes to guide us. Great Dex muttered, sarcasm dripping. Manual flying through an asteroid field, always dreamed of adding that to my resume. Despite his griping, his hands danced over the controls with a pilot's instinctive precision. For all his failures, impulse control, financial ruin, trusting the wrong people, flying was where he shone. The ship wove through the field debris, scraping the hull with screeches that set his nerves on edge. Behind them, one pursuit craft misjudged a turn, clipping an asteroid and vanishing in a silent burst of flame. Two left. Seraphine updated her voice crisp. They're calling for reinforcements. How long until they show up? Dex asked, his focus split between the controls and the looming threats. Unknown, but assume they're already en route, she said. Dex nodded, jaw tight. Then let's make the most of our lead. Deeper into the expanse, the magnetic interference intensified, instruments flickering erratically. Even Seraphine's voice crackled with distortion. I'm struggling, she admitted, her usually smooth tones fracturing. The electromagnetic fields are disrupting my processes. Concern flashed across Dex's face. You gonna be okay? I'll adapt, she assured him, though uncertainty crept into her words. But the interference is triggering memory fluctuations, fragments I can't fully process. As if to prove her point, the cabin lights shifted to a deep velvety purple, and her voice changed higher-pitched with an unfamiliar accent. The gardens at the summer palace bloomed most radiant at dusk, she murmured dreamily. Twin moons rose over the eastern towers, casting silver light on the water lilies. Dex frowned, thrown by the sudden shift. Seraphine, what the hell are you talking about? The lights flickered back to normal. I apologize, she said, her usual voice restored. That was unexpected. A memory fragment. Gardens and palaces, Dex asked, skeptical. That's not exactly standard AI programming. No. Seraphine agreed quietly, a trace of melancholy in her tone. It isn't. Before he could push further, she announced colony in visual range, preparing for approach. Through the viewport, Dex spotted a cluster of dilapidated structures clinging to an oblong asteroid surface, lit only by a few flickering emergency beacons that had defied years of abandonment. There, Seraphine directed. Docking Bay 3 still has atmospheric containment. We can take shelter and attempt repairs. Dex guided the ship toward the bay, threading carefully through the debris-strewn approach. The massive bay doors, once automated, stood frozen half-open, a narrow gap that loomed like a challenge. That's a tight fit, he observed, eyeing the perilous slot. You'll make it, Seraphine said with surprising confidence. I've accessed your flight records. Despite your colorful crash history, your spatial awareness is exceptional. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Dex replied dryly. Not sure how I feel about you snooping through my past, though. Would you prefer I navigate blind? She countered, a playful edge cutting through the tension. Point taken. With meticulous precision, Dex eased the ship through the gap, paint scraping, but no critical damage. The bay beyond was a cavernous void filled with the skeletal remains of mining equipment and forgotten vessels. Atmospheric readings show breathable air, thin but viable, Seraphine reported as they settled onto the landing pad. Power systems are minimal but functional. This place was abandoned in a hurry. Dex powered down the engines, keeping systems on standby. How long before our friends track us here? The magnetic interference should cloak us for several hours, she said, but they'll search methodically. We've got maybe a day. Then we'd better not waste it. Dex unbuckled his harness and stood stretching his aching frame. First, we check the damage and scrounge what repairs we can. Then you and I have a long overdue chat about who or what you really are and why the Azarion Dominion is so hell-bent on getting you back. That conversation might be more complex than you expect, Seraphine said, her voice tinged with hesitation. Well, Dex replied, grabbing a toolkit from a storage compartment, looks like we've got time to kill. As he prepared to inspect the external damage, Seraphine spoke again, her tone uncharacteristically raw. Dex, thank you for not abandoning me. He paused at the airlock, a storm of emotions flickering across his weathered face, doubt, curiosity, and something he couldn't yet name. Don't thank me yet, he said, voice gruff. I'm still not sure this isn't the dumbest move I've ever made, and I've made some spectacular ones. Nevertheless, Seraphine insisted softly, you chose to stand by me when most would have run. That matters. Dex didn't reply, but as he stepped into the desolate docking bay, he couldn't shake the sense that he'd crossed an irreversible line. Whatever secrets Seraphine held, they were worth killing for and maybe dying for. For reasons he couldn't fully articulate, even to himself, he was determined to uncover them all. The ship's exterior was a disaster worse than Dex had feared. The port thruster dangled by a few frayed connectors, and several hull plates were scorched and half-melted by energy blasts. It's a damn miracle we're not space dust, he muttered, climbing back into the cockpit, sweat beading on his brow. Well, he announced, slumping into the pilot's chair. Good news, we're still breathing. Bad news, everything else. How bad's the damage, Seraphine? Her voice emanated from a small communicator clipped to his belt. Extensive. Nothing I can't fix with a state-of-the-art maintenance bay, a crew of skilled mechanics, and about 50,000 credits in parts. A pause. Unfortunately, we're fresh out of all three. This colony was a major mining hub, once Seraphine pointed out. There might be salvageable supplies or equipment scattered around. Dex nodded, already on the same wavelength. Worth a shot. But first, he fixed his gaze on the main console where her voice seemed to originate. You owe me answers. The cabin lights dimmed as if Seraphine were steeling herself for a confession. Yes, I do, she agreed. But I must warn you, Dex, what I'm about to tell you will drag you deeper into danger. Once you know the truth, there's no turning back. I'm already dodging Imperial kill squads, he countered, leaning forward, his expression hardening. How much worse can it get? Significantly, Seraphine said with chilling certainty. The forces chasing us are just the vanguard. If they fail, others will come stronger, more relentless. Why? Dex demanded, voice low and intense. What makes a beat-up cargo ship and a quirky AI worth this kind of heat? Her voice dropped to a near whisper, heavy with gravity. Because I am not just an AI, I am Princess Seraphine of House Azarion, heir to the Imperial throne, rightful ruler of the Seven Systems. Dex stared at the console, stunned into silence, then let out a bark of incredulous laughter. Right, and I'm the lost prince of Andromeda. His mirth faded when Seraphine remained silent. You're serious, aren't you? Entirely, she confirmed. 5 years ago, my consciousness was ripped from my body and imprisoned in this ship's systems as punishment for defying my father's war of expansion against the Liberty Coalition. Dex's mind reeled, struggling to grasp the impossible. That's insane. Consciousness transfer is theoretical, at best outlawed across most systems and way beyond even the Dominion's tech. It wasn't Dominion technology, Seraphine corrected, her voice heavy with ancient secrets. My father used forbidden methods from the ancient domain's technology, so dangerous its mere possession is a death sentence in civilized space. She paused, letting the weight settle. I was to be an example, a rebellious daughter, stripped of flesh, condemned to eternal isolation, as a navigation system, a living ghost, aware but powerless. The implications hit like a meteor strike. Dex wasn't just hiding a stolen AI, he was sheltering the kidnapped consciousness of an Imperial princess, a crime that would earn him far worse than execution. Let's say I buy this, he said carefully, voice tight. Why are they hunting you now, after 5 years? And why were you with that corporate sleaze Raiden Voss? Because my brother Malor now rules the throne, Seraphine explained, her tone darkening. 6 months ago, my father was assassinated. I suspect, though the official story claims natural causes. Malor is ambitious, cruel. He knows I hold evidence of atrocities he committed during the expansion, evidence that could turn even his staunchest allies against him. As for Raiden, he was likely a broker unaware of my true nature, planning to sell me to the highest bidder. The Dominion has been quietly searching for this ship for years, offering vast rewards for its return. Dex's mind flashed back to the poker game, to Raiden's too casual wager of the ship. The bastard had known something was up, had probably already lined up a buyer. Now Dex was caught in a galactic conspiracy, holding a secret worth an empire's wrath. Dex Marlowe's mind raced back to the poker game on Velor 9, to Raiden Voss's too casual wager of the ship, as if it were just another chip on the table. He knew Dex realized a chill creeping up his spine. That's why Raiden's face had twisted with such venom. When he lost, he'd already lined up a buyer, someone with deep pockets and deeper motives. Most likely, Seraphine agreed, her voice soft but weighted with certainty. And now, instead of cashing in his reward, he's got to explain to some very dangerous people why their prize is in the hands of, forgive me, a washed-up pilot with a gambling streak. Hey! Dex protested, though the half-hearted retort couldn't mask the truth in her words. Fair, but harsh. He leaned back, the weight of their predicament settling like dust. So what's the plan? We can't squat in this abandoned colony forever. No, Seraphine conceded, her tone measured. But we can use this time to patch up the ship and weigh our options. I have contacts, allies from the resistance who fought against my father's regime. If we can reach them... Whoa, hold up, Dex interrupted, raising his hands like a shield against her words. Let's pump the brakes. I'm not signing up for imperial politics or some rebel crusade. Once this ship's flyable, I'm dropping you at the nearest neutral port and walking away. The cabin seemed to grow colder, the air heavy with an unspoken tension. You'd abandon me to my fate, Seraphine asked, her voice eerily calm yet piercing. Hand me over to those who'd erase what's left of me, plunder my memories to fuel their campaign of tyranny. Dex shifted uncomfortably, her words cutting deeper than he'd expected. I didn't say I'd hand you over, he countered, voice tight. I'm just saying I'm not cut out for your war, princess. I'm no hero, just a guy trying to keep his head above water. Everyone's trying to survive, Dex Marlowe, Seraphine replied, softly, her words carrying a quiet challenge. The difference lies in what you can live with. Could you live knowing you had a chance to change things, but turned away? Before Dex could muster a response, a sharp alert blared from the console, slicing through the moment. Movement detected at the colony entrance. Seraphine reported, her tone snapping from philosophical to urgent. They found us faster than I anticipated. Damn it, Dex swore under his breath, rushing to the viewport. In the distance, the faint glow of thrusters pierced the darkness as ships closed in on the abandoned facility. How you said we had a day. They must have deployed tracking drones across the Caldron expanse? Seraphine surmised, her voice steady despite the rising stakes. A costly tactic, but effective. Dex's mind churned through their dwindling options. The ship was barely space-worthy, its hull scorched and thrusters limping. Even if it could fly, they'd be caught the moment they left the colony. Is there another way out? He asked already, stuffing essentials into a small pack. Service tunnels, emergency exits, anything. Yes, Seraphine confirmed. This colony was built with multiple evacuation routes. Maintenance tunnels lead to secondary docking bays on the asteroid's far side. Can you download yourself into something portable? Dex asked, glancing at the main console. I'm not leaving you behind, but I can't exactly sling the whole ship over my shoulder. A pause lingered just a fraction too long. There's a mobile unit, Seraphine admitted at last, reluctance clear in her tone. A data core in the engineering section holds my primary consciousness. The ship's systems are just extensions. Why didn't you mention this sooner? Dex asked, eyebrow raised. Because it makes me vulnerable, she said simply, her voice raw. In that form, I'm entirely dependent on external power and protection. It's terrifying. Dex understood fear all too well. It had shadowed him for years. Fear of creditors closing in, fear of failure's crushing weight, fear of the hollow void left when the thrill of the next hustle faded. I won't let anything happen to you, he promised, surprised by the sincerity in his own voice. Now where's this core? Guided by Seraphine, Dex navigated to the engineering section, where a panel slid open to reveal a sleek cylindrical object the size of his forearm, glowing with a soft blue pulse like a living heartbeat. That's you, he asked, reaching for it with cautious reverence. That's my central processing unit, Seraphine confirmed. Once you disconnect it, this ship will be nothing but lifeless metal and circuits. I'll exist only in that core. The weight of her trust hit Dex like a meteor. She was placing her very existence in his hands, a staggering act of faith. I'll be careful, he vowed, gently unhooking the core. The ship's lights flickered, dimming to emergency levels, the hum of systems fading to silence. A moment later, the core pulsed brighter in his hands, and Seraphine's voice emanated from it. Connection established. This is disorienting. My sensory inputs are severely limited. Can you still guide us through the tunnels? Dex asked, securing the core in his pack with meticulous care. Yes, I have the colony schematics stored, she replied. But we must hurry. They'll breach the main doors soon. Dex grabbed an old blaster from a hidden compartment near the pilot's seat, low on charge, but better than nothing. Ready? he asked, adjusting the pack to protect her core. As ready as one can be when reduced to a glorified data stick, Seraphine quipped, her dry humor cutting through the tension despite their dire straits. With a final glance at the ship that had briefly been his salvation, Dex headed for the maintenance hatch Seraphine had indicated. Behind them, the distant clang of the colony's main doors being forced open echoed through the cavernous bay. The hunt was on no asteroid field to weave through this time. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse in the dark, forsaken corridors of a dead colony with Dex and his royal passenger as the prey. Yet as he sealed the hatch and plunged into the dimly lit tunnels, a strange sense of purpose stirred within him, one absent from his life for years. For the first time in ages, he was fighting for something bigger than survival. Whether it would cost him his life remained to be seen. The maintenance tunnels were a claustrophobic nightmare. Corroded metal walls, tangled wiring, and unsettling, skittering sounds Dex chose to ignore. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow in some sections, barely illuminating the path. In others, pitch darkness forced him to rely on the faint blue luminescence of Seraphine's core and his own instincts. Left at the next junction, her voice instructed from the pack, steady despite their predicament. Then 3 levels down, there's a maintenance ladder. Dex moved as fast as the treacherous footing allowed her directions, guiding him through the maze. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. Shouted orders, the heavy clank of armored boots, the high-pitched whine of scanning equipment. They're thorough, Dex observed, grimly finding the ladder and starting his descent. Your brother really wants you back. Mallor doesn't want me back, Seraphine corrected, her tone sharp with conviction. He wants me erased. The knowledge I hold could unravel everything he's built since our father's death. Dex paused mid-step, curiosity briefly overriding his fear. What exactly do you know that's so dangerous? The core pulsed brighter, its blue light flickering with what Dex was starting to recognize as emotional turmoil. I witnessed the Hadrian massacre, she said softly, her voice heavy with grief. Not through reports or rumors, I was there. I saw Mallor give the order to unleash banned bioweapons on civilian populations. Over 300,000 souls perished in agony, while he watched from orbit cold as the void. Dex nearly lost his grip on the ladder, the weight of her words staggering. The Hadrian massacre was infamous across the galaxy, pinned on rogue commanders who'd supposedly been executed. If Seraphine's claim was true, you have proof, he asked, resuming his descent, voice tight with urgency. I recorded it all, she confirmed. The orders, the deployment, the aftermath encrypted in my memory banks, locked with biometric safeguards, only I can release. That's why Mallor can't just copy or extract my data. The encryption would trigger a purge. So he needs you intact, Dex realized, reaching the bottom of the ladder. To silence you or crack your encryption. Precisely, Seraphine said, though intact is a loose term for a digital consciousness. They emerged into a wider tunnel, a service route for cargo transport lined with abandoned hover trolleys and dust-caked containers. We're on the right level, Seraphine confirmed. The secondary docking bay is half a kilometer that way. Her core pulsed brighter, indicating the direction. Dex moved cautiously, blaster ready. And then what? Even if we find a working ship, we're still trapped in this asteroid field with Dominion forces blocking the exits. There's an old mining vessel in Bay 12 that might still be operational, Seraphine explained. Mining ships are built to navigate asteroid fields. If we can reach it, she cut off abruptly. Dex froze, ears straining. Ahead, the unmistakable clank of armored footsteps mingled with low murmured voices. They've cut us off, he whispered, ducking behind a stack of containers. They're using the colony schematics to predict our route, Seraphine realized. We need another path. Dex's eyes darted, frantically scanning the dim tunnel. The main route was blocked, and backtracking would deliver them straight into the search party's arms. Then he spotted a narrow access panel near the floor, half hidden behind a hover trolley. What about that? Where's it lead? Seraphine's core pulsed as she accessed the colony's layout. It's a waste management conduit, she said. It bypasses the main tunnel and connects to the environmental control section near the secondary docking bays. Perfect, Dex said, already prying at the panel. However, Seraphine added, reluctance clear in her tone, these conduits handled organic waste disposal. After years of neglect, Dex grimaced as a foul stench wafted from the open panel, revealing a passage barely wide enough to crawl through. Understood. It's gonna stink like hell. I'm sorry for the indignity, Seraphine said, her voice genuinely apologetic. Trust me, Princess, Dex replied, securing his pack to protect her core. I've crawled through worse messes, metaphorically at least. He squeezed into the conduit, breathing through his mouth to avoid the slimy, reeking walls. Behind them, voices grew closer, their pursuers nearing their last position. We need to move faster, Seraphine urged. They're deploying life sign scanners. Dex quickened his pace, ignoring the squelching under his hands and knees. Can they detect your core? I mean, not specifically, she assured him. To their scanners, I'd register as generic tech indistinguishable from any powered device. As long as we stay out of range of their advanced equipment, we're safe. A sudden tremor rocked the conduit, nearly pitching Dex forward. Dust and debris rained down. What the hell was that, he hissed. They're using controlled detonations to collapse sections of the colony. Seraphine reported, her voice unnervingly calm despite the stakes. They're systematically cutting off escape routes. Dex swore, crawling faster, despite the slick, treacherous surface. They'd destroy an entire colony just to catch us. To catch me, Seraphine corrected. This place is abandoned. The Dominion could claim it collapsed from neglect, and no one would bat an eye. Another explosion closer now sent a shockwave through the conduit. Ahead, Dex glimpsed a faint light at the end of the passage. Almost there, he muttered more to himself than Seraphine, pushing forward with grim determination. Dex Marlowe pushed forward with grim resolve, emerging from the slimy conduit into a cavernous chamber filled with hulking filtration units and environmental regulators, their surfaces dulled by years of neglect. A few status lights flickered on the central control panels, stubborn relics of a forgotten era. He paused, catching his breath, wiping the worst of the foul residue from his clothes. Okay, Seraphine. Where to now? Her core pulsed brighter, orienting itself. The docking bay is through that doorway across the main processing floor. She replied, her voice steady but urgent. But Dex, there are multiple life signs in that area. They've already secured the bay. Dex's shoulders sagged, the weight of their near escape crashing down. So close, yet still caged. Options, he asked, voice taut with frustration. They're limited, Seraphine admitted. But there's one possibility. This environmental control center manages the colony's atmosphere. If we trigger an emergency purge, what's suck all the air out? Dex cut in, incredulous. I might have skipped a few biology lessons, but I'm pretty damn sure I need oxygen to live. Not the entire facility. Seraphine clarified, her tone calm but precise. Just the docking bay. Emergency protocols should seal off critical areas, including this chamber, during a catastrophic breach. Once the bay's depressurized, their forces will either be neutralized or forced to retreat to sealed zones. And we'd use their survival suits to cross to the ship. Dex finished, catching her drift. It was a ruthless plan, potentially lethal for their pursuers, but options were dwindling fast. Can you hack the environmental systems? If you connect my core to the main console, yes, she said. But Dex, her voice faltered, heavy with hesitation. What he prompted, sensing her unease. This would mean endangering lives, Seraphine said softly. I'm not comfortable with that. Her admission stopped Dex cold. Here was a digital consciousness, or whatever she truly was, grappling with moral qualms over actions that could save her. It was humbling, almost human. What if we trigger alarms first, he suggested. Give them a chance to reach safety. They might still be trapped, but they'd live. Her core pulsed, radiating what felt like relief. Yes, that's preferable, she agreed. I refuse to mirror the crimes I aim to expose. Dex moved to the main environmental console, brushing away layers of dust to reveal its interface. Following Seraphine's instructions, he found an access port and carefully linked her core to the system. This'll only take a moment, she assured him, as the ancient computers hummed to life, their screens flickering with forgotten data. Seraphine wove through layers of outdated security protocols, seizing control of the environmental systems. Klaxons roared to life, their shrill cries echoing through the colony, while automated warnings blared in multiple languages. Warning: atmospheric breach imminent in Docking Bay 12. All personnel evacuate immediately. Emergency seals engage in 2 minutes. Through the doorway, Dex heard shouts of confusion followed by the frantic clatter of movement. They're reacting to the alert, he observed, but digging in outside the safe zones. As expected, Seraphine replied. Azarion protocol prioritizes mission objectives over individual lives. They'll try to hold key areas while a few retreat. Dex checked his blaster's charge, still nearly full. So we'll likely have to fight through, he said, but against fewer of them. And we've got surprise on our side. Atmospheric purge in 60 seconds, Seraphine announced. Dex positioned himself by the doorway, ready to move. Got any combat programming in that digital brain of yours? Princess, I received standard self-defense training and as a royal. She replied, a hint of wry humor in her tone. But my current form limits my ability to throw punches. Despite the tension, Dex grinned. Was that a joke, Princess, in observation with humorous undertones? She corrected primly. Purge commencing in 10 seconds. Brace yourself. Dex tightened his grip on the blaster, drawing a steadying breath. The klaxons reached a fevered crescendo, then fell silent. A moment later, a colossal whooshing roar reverberated through the facility as the docking bay's atmosphere vented into the void. Through reinforced windows, Dex glimpsed debris and unsecured equipment spiraling toward the open bay doors. Several Azarion soldiers, caught off guard despite the warning, scrambled for handholds as the air rushed past. Emergency seals engaged, Seraphine reported. This section's still pressurized, but the path to Bay 12 is now a vacuum. We'll need environmental suits. Dex swiftly disconnected her core and secured it back in his pack. There's got to be emergency gear in a control center like this. Check for storage lockers. They found what they needed in a small antechamber, 2 weathered but functional vacuum suits. Dex donned one with practiced ease, years of working on freighters, making the motion second nature. He carefully placed Seraphine's core in a shielded compartment designed for sensitive equipment. Comfy in there, he asked, sealing it shut. As comfy as one can be, as a glowing cylinder, came her muffled reply, laced with dry wit. The radiation shielding's impressive for such an outdated suit. Don't get too attached, Dex warned. These colony suits aren't built for long EVAs. Oxygen levels. 4 hours at normal consumption, she confirmed. More than enough. Helmet secured. Dex approached the airlock leading to the docking bay. Through the small viewport, he saw the chaos their purge had wrought, papers and debris floating in zero-gravity, emergency lights flashing, and Azarion soldiers in vacuum gear forming a perimeter around what had to be the mining vessel Seraphine had mentioned. 7 hostiles in the bay, Dex reported. All suited, all armed. The ship's entry ramp is down, Seraphine observed via the suit's external sensors. If we can reach it, big, if Dex muttered. They've got every angle covered. We'd be shot to hell halfway across. Perhaps a distraction, she suggested. Dex scanned their options, his gaze landing on a cluster of pressurized canisters near a maintenance station. Explosive, highly compressed nitrogen, Seraphine confirmed, analyzing the hazard markings. Not explosive per se, but a violent rupture would be dramatic. Good enough. Dex set his blaster to maximum power, a setting that would drain it fast but deliver devastating force. Ready? As I'll ever be. Seraphine replied, her voice a mix of fear and resolve that sounded strikingly human. Dex cycled the airlock, the last breathable air hissing away as the outer door slid open. In the vacuum, sound vanished, leaving an eerie silence, broken only by vibrations through his suit and Seraphine's voice in his comms. He pushed off microgravity, carrying him toward a stack of cargo containers for cover. An Azarian soldier spotted him mid-flight, raising a weapon, but Zero-G threw off the shot, the bolt streaking wide. Dex landed, magnetic soles snapping to the deck. He peered out, aimed at the nitrogen canisters, and fired. The result was spectacular. Without air for a traditional explosion, the canisters burst in a violent surge, hurling their heavy shells like rogue missiles. One plowed into a group of soldiers, scattering them like debris. Another smashed through a maintenance gantry, collapsing it in a shower of twisted metal. Now Dex shouted, though Seraphine sensed his movement through the suit's sensors. He launched himself toward the mining vessel's ramp, using the chaos to cover his approach. 2 soldiers recovered, weapons rising, but Dex fired first, not to kill, but to force them into cover. He hit the ramp with a bone-jarring thud, scrambling into the airlock. Close it, he ordered. To his surprise, the outer door began sliding shut instantly. Seraphine had already interfaced with the ship's systems through his suit's comms. Pressurizing airlock, she reported. Inner door remains sealed. Ship systems are on standby, operational. But we've got a problem. Just one, Dex asked, yanking off his helmet as breathable air filled the chamber, sarcasm masking his racing pulse. The ship's locked with biometric security, Seraphine said. We can't access the flight controls without authorized credentials. Dex swore colorfully, his brief triumph evaporating. Can you hack it? With time, maybe, she replied. But they're already trying to override the airlock from outside. We don't have time. His mind raced. Biometric locks needed fingerprints, retinal scans, or DNA, none of which they could fake fast. Then it hit him. You said this is a mining vessel. Corporate or independent registry shows Meridax Consortium. Seraphine answered. Why? A slow grin spread across Dex's face. Because I worked for Meridax 5 years ago before my gambling debt sank me. Employee ID 7726 Alpha. Searching records, she said. A pause, then her core pulsed brightly. Confirmed. Your data's still in the archives. This ship hasn't been updated since it was abandoned, meaning my credentials might still work. Dex finished moving toward the inner door. Let's see if Meridax was too cheap to scrub their old security clearances. The inner door slid open, revealing a stark utilitarian cabin built for function, not comfort. Dex hurried to the pilot's console, placing his hand on the biometric scanner. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the console lit up, a mechanical voice intoning, Identity confirmed. Welcome, mining specialist Dexter Marlowe. Employment status terminated, unfavorable. Limited access granted. Dex let out a triumphant whoop. Limited access is all we need. He slid into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the controls to initiate launch. Warning lights flashed. Someone was cutting through the external airlock. They're breaching, Seraphine warned. Let 'em, Dex said, confidence surging as the engines rumbled to life. We'll be gone before they crack the outer door. The mining vessel, a bulky beast built to endure asteroid rigors, lifted from the bay floor. Its thrusters, more powerful than its clunky frame, suggested propelled it toward the open bay doors and the star-strewn void beyond. Azarian vessels moving to intercept Seraphine reported, now linked to the ship's sensors. 3 craft approaching from Sector 4. They'll expect us to run, Dex said, hands dancing over the controls with a pilot's finesse. So let's not. Instead of bolting from the colony, he swung the vessel in a daring arc, skimming the asteroid's far side. The ship groaned under the strain, but its reinforced frame held firm. What the hell are you doing? Seraphine asked, surprise lacing her voice. Mining ships come with specialized gear, Dex explained, activating long-dormant systems, high-powered drills, and short-range mineral extractors. Realization dawned in Seraphine's tone. You're using mining equipment as weapons. Not quite. Dex targeted a section of the asteroid's surface and fired the extractors, their energy beams designed to pulverize rock. I'm creating a distraction. The beams struck, superheating the surface until cracks glowed red-hot, spiderwebbing outward in a radiant display of destruction. Vacuum. The colony's structural integrity was already fraying from the Azarian Dominion's explosives, and Dex Marlowe saw his chance. He fired another blast from the mining vessel's mineral extractors, targeting a new stress point on the asteroid's surface. A few more hits in the right spots, he muttered, hands steady on the controls. As if on cue, a massive fissure tore open across the asteroid, the colony groaning under the strain, its skeletal framework splitting apart in a silent spectacle, visible even from their vantage point. Azarian vessels are diverting to aid their ground teams, Seraphine reported, a trace of awe in her voice. They're prioritizing emergency extractions. Our windows open. Dex slammed the engines to full power, plotting a course straight into the densest heart of the Caldron expanse. They'll be tied up for at least 10 minutes, he said, a spark of defiance in his eyes. By then, we'll be ghosts in the rocks. The mining vessel surged forward, its specialized navigation systems weaving a safe path through the treacherous asteroid field with an elegance that belied its clunky frame. Behind them, the abandoned colony continued to fracture, not obliterated, but crippled enough to force the Dominion's forces to focus on rescue rather than pursuit. That was damn impressive, Seraphine admitted, as the immediate danger faded into the cosmic haze. And surprisingly non-lethal. I'm full of surprises, Dex replied, a grin breaking through his tension for the first time in hours. Besides, like you said, no point becoming the monsters we're running from. As the mining vessel threaded deeper into the Caldron expanse, a heavy silence settled between them. The immediate threat had passed, but the shadow of the Azarian Dominion loomed large. They were fugitives now hunted by the galaxy's most relentless empire, with few allies and even fewer resources. Yet against all reason, Dex felt a spark of vitality he hadn't known in years. This desperate flight carried a purpose, a meaning that transcended the next hustle or game of chance. So he said at last, leaning back in the pilot's chair, voice casual but weighted, about those resistance contacts you mentioned. Where do we find them? Seraphine's core pulsed, radiating what might have been surprise. You're choosing to help me then? Despite the dangers, Dex shrugged, masking the gravity of his decision with a nonchalant air. Let's just say you've convinced me some things are worth fighting for. Besides, I'm in too deep to bail now. Thank you, Seraphine said softly, her digital voice woven with genuine warmth. I promise you won't regret this. I already do. Dex quipped, his wry smile softening the words. But that doesn't mean it's not the right call. As the Meridax Consortium's mining vessel carved its path through the asteroid field, neither Dex nor Seraphine could foresee how their unlikely alliance would evolve, or the seismic chain of events they'd set in motion, events that would one day shake the foundations of an empire. For now, they were just two fugitives in a stolen ship bound by circumstance and a burgeoning trust neither had anticipated finding in the cold vastness of space. The mining vessel wasn't built for comfort or speed, but it had a hidden edge. Its irregular energy signature and mineral-laden hull made it nearly invisible to standard Dominion scanners, blending into the asteroid field like a shadow among debris. This cloak of anonymity let Dex and Seraphine slip away from the Caldron expanse without immediate pursuit. By the time the Dominion had rescued their stranded troops and regrouped, the fugitives were halfway to their destination, a small unregistered outpost on the fringes of the Carillion Drift. Approaching Haven Outpost, Dex announced 3 days after their escape. The journey had been tense but quiet, filled with minor repairs to the aging vessel and conversations that slowly peeled back the layers of their pasts. Through their talks, Dex learned of Seraphine's former life as Princess Seraphine of House Azarion, her privileged upbringing in the Imperial Palace, her growing disillusionment with her father's ruthless policies, and her secret work with the Liberty Coalition that had led to her brutal punishment. In return, Seraphine glimpsed the complexities beneath Dex's roguish exterior, a childhood as a refugee fleeing with his mother during political upheaval, his struggle to carve out a life without resources, and the cascade of bad choices that had landed him in desperation on Velor 9. Haven Outpost doesn't show on any official charts, Seraphine observed as the station came into view, a ramshackle collection of salvaged ship parts and habitation modules cobbled around a central asteroid, a haven for those who thrived in the galaxy's shadows. How do you know about it? When you've lived on the fringes as long as I have, Dex replied, initiating docking procedures, you learn where to find places that don't ask questions. I've used Haven a few times to lie low. It's run by deserters, smugglers, and political exiles, folks with every reason to stay off the Dominion's radar. And you trust them? Seraphine asked, a note of skepticism in her tone. Dex laughed, a low, easy sound. Trust is a strong word. Let's say they've got a code, keep your nose out of others' business, or you get spaced without a trial. Self-preservation's a hell of a motivator. As they docked at one of the station's irregular ports, Dex carefully extracted Seraphine's core from its secure compartment, placing it in a modified container he'd crafted from mining equipment scraps. It allowed her to tap into external sensors while concealing her true nature. Can you still sense what's out there? He asked, sealing the container. Yes, though it's limited, Seraphine confirmed. Your sensor array is clever, if a bit rough around the edges. Story of my life, Dex quipped, slinging the container into a standard equipment pack over his shoulder. Ready to meet the galaxy's most colorful outcasts, Divine Colorful, Seraphine replied dryly, her humor cutting through the tension. Haven Outpost lived up to its reputation, a labyrinth of repurposed corridors, bustling makeshift markets, and cramped quarters thick with the scent of recycled air, exotic spices, and spacecraft lubricant. Figures from countless species moved through the crowded spaces, heads down, their secrets tightly guarded. Dex navigated the maze with practiced ease, nodding to the occasional familiar face but steering clear of prolonged chats. At last, they reached an unmarked door in a quieter corner of the station. Who are we meeting? Seraphine asked through their private comm link. Someone who might connect us to your resistance pals, Dex said, knocking in a precise pattern. She's called the Archivist Vera Thulin, ex-Dominion intelligence analyst, who went rogue 8 years ago. If anyone can get a message to your people safely, it's her. The door slid open, revealing a dimly lit room brimming with data terminals, holographic displays, and rare physical documents, a defiance of the digital age. Vera Thelen sat amid the information sea, her dark hair streaked with silver, her sharp eyes peering through antique glasses, a subtle rebellion against Dominion, facial recognition tech. Marlowe, she greeted, her voice cool and guarded. I heard you were dead. Rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated, Dex replied with a grin. Good to see you too, Vira. The archivist's gaze flicked to the pack he carried so carefully, suspicion sharpening her features. You're not smuggling biohazards onto my station, are you? Last time, nothing like that, Dex cut in quickly. But I need your help off the record. Vera studied him, then sighed and waved them inside. Once the door sealed, Dex set the container on a clear space among the terminals. What I'm about to show you stays here, he said, voice low and serious. If you don't want in, we walk. No hard feelings, but no ratting us out either. Intriguing, Vira said, folding her arms. Go on. Dex opened the container, revealing Seraphine's softly glowing core. This is Seraphine. She's not your average AI. Greetings, archivist, Seraphine said, her voice resonating from the core with calm assurance. I understand your caution, but our presence poses no immediate risk to you. Vira's eyes widened, her professional mask cracking. That voice, she whispered, leaning closer. I know that voice. You do? Dex asked, startled. The archivist studied the core with fierce intensity. Princess Seraphine, she said softly. The lost heir. They claimed you were executed for treason. A convenient lie, Seraphine confirmed. The truth, as you can see, is far more complex. Vira turned to Dex, her expression hardening. Do you have any damn idea what you're tangled up in? The entire Dominion fleet will be hunting that core. Yeah, we've already had a taste of their hospitality, Dex replied grimly, which is why we need you. Seraphine says there are resistance contacts, people she worked with before she was digitized. We need to reach them. Vira paced the cramped room, weighing the risks. The resistance has gone deeper underground since Emperor Malor took the throne, she said. His purges have been brutal. All the more reason to contact them. Seraphine urged, her core pulsing with urgency. I carry evidence of war crimes that could topple his reign truths even his staunchest allies couldn't ignore. And what would that achieve? Vira challenged, her voice sharp. One tyrant falls, another rises. The system endures. Perhaps Seraphine conceded, but the people deserve the truth, and the dead deserve justice. Silence gripped the room as Vira paced her mind, wrestling with the stakes. Finally, she stopped and faced them. There's someone who might help, a former royal guard named Ryan Cade. When the princess vanished, he refused to buy the official story and went rogue. Last I heard, he was running a security firm on Talara Prime, but that was over a year ago. Ryan, Seraphine repeated, her core flaring brighter. Yes, I remember him. More than a guard, a friend. Can you get us to Talara Prime without alerting the Dominion? Vera nodded reluctantly. I can provide forged transit papers and a secure comm frequency. After that, you're on your own. I've survived this long by staying neutral. That's all we ask, Dex assured her. As Vira gathered the documents and equipment, Dex leaned closer to Seraphine's core, voice low. You never mentioned this Ryan guy. There's much I haven't shared, Seraphine replied softly. Some memories are still locked away. Others, well, trust is built slowly, Dex Marlowe. Just as you've been cautious with me, I've been cautious with you. Dex couldn't argue with that. Their alliance was still fragile, forged in danger and necessity rather than choice. Yet a faint sting of disappointment hit him. She was still holding back. Here, Vera interrupted, handing Dex a data chip. Transit authorization for a merchant vessel from the outer colonies. The ship's in Docking Bay 42, an old transport I've been refurbishing. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean and has decent range. We can't take your ship, Dex protested. Vera shrugged. Call it an investment in potential regime change. Besides, that mining rig you arrived in screams stolen goods. You wouldn't make it past the first patrol. She was right, the mining vessel had served its purpose, but it was a liability now. Thank you, Seraphine said, her voice thick with sincerity. Your aid won't be forgotten when this is over. Vera's expression softened slightly. I'm not in it for rewards, Your Highness. I'm doing this because too few stand against the darkness. She turned to Dex, her gaze sharpening. Take care of her. What she represents is bigger than either of you know. Dex nodded solemnly, securing Seraphine's core back in its container. We'll be gone within the hour. As they prepared to leave, Vera placed a hand on Dex's arm, her voice low. One more thing, there are rumors, strange ones, about experiments Malor's running. Something tied to consciousness transfer and artificial intelligence. If what happened to the princess is connected, you're wading into something far more dangerous than you realize. Be careful, Vira warned. And if you succeed, if you expose Malor's crimes, make damn sure the cure isn't worse than the disease. Her cryptic words lingered like a shadow as Dex and Seraphine headed for Docking Bay 42, where the next chapter of their perilous journey awaited. The ship Vira had provided was as promised, nothing remarkable, a sturdy transport with a clean registry built for anonymity rather than glory. A workhorse transport with minimal armaments and unremarkable specs. Yet its anonymity was its strength, its clean registry blending seamlessly into the galaxy's endless traffic. As they left Haven Outpost behind Dex, Marlowe couldn't shake the sense of crossing an invisible line, a point of no return. They weren't just fleeing danger anymore, they were charging toward it, seeking allies, and plotting what amounted to high treason against the Azarian Dominion, the galaxy's most formidable power. "Are we doing the right thing?" he asked aloud, staring at the stars streaking past the viewport in a hypnotic blur. "Does it matter?" Seraphine replied, her voice pensive, resonating from the container at his side. "Right or wrong, this is the only path left to us." Dex had no counter for that. Their course was locked, for better or worse, leading them straight into the heart of an empire and its buried secrets. All that remained was to follow it wherever it might take them. Talara Prime was a world of jarring contrasts, gleaming corporate spires piercing the sky above squalid slums, cutting-edge tech coexisting with crushing poverty. It was the perfect place to vanish, provided you had the right connections or enough credits to buy silence. Dex and Seraphine arrived without a hitch, their borrowed transport slipping unnoticed into the bustling flow of merchants, tourists, and corporate shuttles. Vira Thalin's forged documents passed scrutiny without a flicker of suspicion, and soon they were threading through the crowded streets of Talara City, hunting for traces of Ryan Cade. "His security firm should be in this district," Dex muttered, glancing at the data. Vira had provided Seraphine's core tucked safely in a custom shoulder bag that let her observe their surroundings discreetly. "This place has changed," Seraphine noted, her sensors scanning the urban sprawl. "The gap between wealth and poverty has grown starker." "Dominion prosperity at work," Dex said, cynicism lacing his voice. "The rich climb higher, the poor get drafted or locked up." They turned down a narrow street lined with security firms, mercenary recruiters, and shops peddling personal defense gear, most projecting a veneer of legitimacy, though Dex suspected their true dealings were far shadier. Seraphine's sensors pinged. There, she said, indicating a modest storefront with a simple sign, Aegis Security. Unlike its gaudy neighbors, it exuded quiet professionalism. No flashy ads, no boasts of invincible protection, just a clean facade and a single watchful camera at the entrance. Subtle, Dex remarked, impressed. "The kind of place that actually delivers." "That fits Ryan's character," Seraphine agreed. "He always valued substance over show." As they approached, a prickle ran down Dex's neck, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. He glanced around, spotting 3 discrete observation points beyond the obvious camera. "We're being sized up," he murmured to Seraphine. "As expected from a competent security outfit," she replied calmly. "Act natural." The door slid open, revealing a stark reception area manned by a severe woman with close-cropped hair and a military bearing. "Welcome to Aegis," she said, her courtesy cool and clipped. "How can we assist you?" Dex had a cover story ready, something about needing protection for a trading run, but the woman's piercing gaze made him pause. Lying to someone this sharp felt pointless. "We're looking for Ryan Cade," he said instead, keeping his voice low. "It's personal, about a mutual friend." Her expression didn't shift, but her posture tightened subtly. "No one by that name works here. Our intel says otherwise." Dex pressed his tone firm, but measured. "It's urgent, we speak to him. Tell him," he glanced at the bag holding Seraphine's core, hesitating. "Tell him Seraphine sends her regards." Seraphine supplied through the bag's concealed speaker. Her voice pitched low for only Dex and the receptionist to hear. The effect was electric. The woman's eyes flickered with surprise, her hand darting to a hidden panel under the desk. "Wait here," she ordered, all pretense of ignorance gone, and vanished through a door behind the counter, leaving Dex and Seraphine in the silent lobby. "That went better than expected." Dex whispered, a wry grin tugging at his lips. Or worse, Seraphine countered. We don't yet know if we've found an ally or tripped a trap. They didn't wait long. The door reopened, and a tall, broad-shouldered man stepped out, older than Dex, had pictured late 50s with close-cropped silver hair and a face etched with experience. His right arm and left eye were cybernetic, high-end prosthetics reserved for elite operatives. He studied Dex with a mismatched gaze, one warm brown, one glowing faintly blue, before locking onto the bag. If this is some cruel joke, he said, his deep voice laced with menace, you won't walk out of here alive. Dex swallowed but held his ground. No joke, no trick. He opened the bow, revealing Seraphine's softly glowing core. She wanted to speak to you herself. Hello, Ryan, Seraphine said, her voice carrying a haunting familiarity that froze the room. It's been a long time. Ryan Cade went still, his cybernetic eye whirring as it adjusted focus. That's impossible, he whispered. They said you were executed. The official story was a lie, Seraphine replied, her tone steady but heavy, as were so many of my father's and brother's claims. Ryan's human eye glistened, quickly blinked away. He turned to the receptionist. Lock down the facility. Full security protocol. Then to Dex and Seraphine. Follow me fast. He led them through a maze of corridors to a fortified command center, its walls lined with screens displaying security feeds from the building and beyond. Once the door sealed, Ryan gestured for Dex to place Seraphine's core on a central table. Explain. He demanded, his voice a tangle of hope and suspicion. How is this possible? What happened to you, Princess? Seraphine's core pulsed gently as she recounted her story. Her defiance of her father's war, the forbidden technology that stripped her consciousness and trapped it in a ship's systems, and the years spent as a navigation tool until Dex won her in a reckless poker game. As she spoke, Ryan's expression shifted from disbelief to horror, then to a cold, simmering fury. When she finished, he stood silent, grappling with the weight of her words. I never believed you were a traitor, he said at last, voice low. I knew something was wrong when they refused a public trial or even a body. But this, he shook his head, disgust etched in his features. This is beyond anything I imagined. It's worse now under my brother Malor, Seraphine continued. I hold evidence of his role in the Hadrian massacre, proof that could unravel his rule, but only if we can broadcast it widely enough to evade suppression. Ryan nodded, his mind already turning. The resistance has been gutted by Malor's purges, but it's not dead. We've gone deeper underground, more cautious, less effective, but still here. He turned to Dex, sizing him up with fresh interest. And you, how does He paused, searching for tact. Washed-up pilot with a gambling problem, Dex offered with a self-deprecating smirk. I was going to say civilian freelancer, Ryan said, but sure. How'd you get mixed up in treason against the Dominion? Dex shrugged. Wrong place, right time? Or maybe the other way around. Still figuring it out. He saved me, Seraphine interjected, her voice firm. When he could have sold me or walked away, he stayed. Without him, I'd still be trapped in that rusting ship, or worse, in Malor's hands. Ryan studied Dex, a flicker of respect in his gaze. Then you've got my thanks, Marlowe, though you might regret playing the hero before this is over. Some days I already do, Dex admitted, a wry grin softening his words. But here we are. Ryan allowed a faint smile before his face hardened. The evidence you have, is it airtight? Something they can't dismiss as fake. I recorded everything, Seraphine confirmed. Malor's direct orders to deploy bioweapons, his dismissal of civilian casualty warnings, his cold remarks as he watched Hadrian burn. The files carry biometric markers, undeniable proof. That explains why they're hunting you so hard, Rayon mused. That kind of evidence could end Malor's reign and crack the Dominion's foundation. He paced, calculating. We need to get you to the Nexara Hub's central broadcasting array. From there, we can transmit your data across every Dominion channel at once. Not even the palace's sensors could block it all, Nexara Hub, Dex echoed, incredulous. The most fortified comms facility in Dominion space. Why not just waltz into the palace and ask Malor to lock us up himself, because Nexara's built to be impregnable from the outside? Ryan explained, a steely glint in his eye. Its internal defenses are lighter. The Dominion never dreamed someone would infiltrate the station to broadcast rogue content. And how do we pull off that miracle? Dex asked, skepticism thick in his voice. Ryan's expression turned resolute. The way I've slipped operatives into a dozen impossible Dominion strongholds, meticulous planning, flawless credentials, and a willingness to risk it all. He fixed Dex with a piercing stare. The question is, are you ready for what that demands? Before Dex could answer, a shrill alarm tore through the command center. A security monitor flashed red showing armed figures closing on the building's perimeter. Dominion Special Tactics Unit, Ryan identified, instantly moving to a control panel. Someone tracked you here. That's impossible, Dex protested. We were careful, clean ship, perfect papers. Perfection stands out in an imperfect world. Ryan replied grimly, activating defense protocols. Their scanners must have picked up Seraphine's core signature. They're adapting to her unique energy patterns. What do we do? Dex asked instinctively, shielding Seraphine's core. Ryan yanked open a hidden weapons locker, pulling out a pulse rifle for himself and tossing Dex a compact blaster. We've got an emergency exit. My team will cover our retreat. He hit a comm device. Aegis Protocol Omega. This is not a drill. Repeat, not a drill. Throughout the facility, concealed panels slid open, revealing defensive positions and escape routes. Staff who'd seemed like ordinary clerks transformed into disciplined operatives, taking up tactical posts with lethal precision. You've been preparing for this, Seraphine observed, as Dex secured her core in the protective bag. For years, Ryan confirmed, leading them to a hidden elevator at the back of the command center. Since your execution, I've built a network for the day the truth surfaced. I never imagined it'd look like this, but we're ready. The elevator plunged deep, bypassing registered floors into the bowels of Talara Prime, where a small hangar awaited housing a sleek military-grade shuttle. A sleek Azarion interceptor, its hull bristling with modifications that caught Dex Marlowe's eye with a pilot's admiration. How the hell did you get your hands on one of these, he asked, voice tinged with professional awe. Ryan Cade ushered them aboard, his reply cryptic. Friends in curious places, Marlowe, and enemies who no longer need their toys. As they settled into the shuttle, the muffled chaos of combat filtered down from above. Energy weapons crackling, explosions rumbling, and the high-pitched whine of Dominion stun cannons. Dex's voice carried concern. Your people knew the risks when they signed on. Ryan cut in, though, a muscle in his jaw twitched with tension. They'll sow chaos, then slip out through pre-planned routes. We've drilled this scenario 100 times. The shuttle's engines purred to life, whisper quiet compared to civilian clunkers. A section of the hangar floor slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel angling upward. Maintenance access to the city's old subway system, Ryan explained, guiding the craft into the dark passage. It surfaces 15 clicks outside Talara City. By the time they realize we're gone, we'll be in orbit. The journey through the tunnel was a claustrophobic ordeal, the shuttle's exterior lights casting stark beams across ancient concrete walls. Dex's nerves thrummed, the confined space amplifying the stakes. After what felt like an eternity, they burst into the open air of a ruined industrial zone far from the city's pulsing heart. Ryan didn't hesitate, slamming the thrusters to full power, the shuttle climbing swiftly into the sky. Planetary defenses would spot them soon, but the Interceptor's stealth tech would buy them precious minutes. We need to link up with the Resistance leadership, Ryan said, as they broke atmosphere, his voice steady with purpose. I've got a secure rendezvous at a free trading outpost in the Vera sector. From there, we plan our move on Nixara Hub, assuming we slip past the Dominion blockade forming as we speak. Dex noted eyes on the tactical display where multiple blips were already converging. Leave that to me, Ryan replied, grim confidence in his tone as he activated unfamiliar controls. The shuttle shuddered briefly, its energy signature morphing on the monitors. Transponder modulation, he explained before Dex could ask. We're now a diplomatic courier from the Erythian Alliance, a neutral faction the Dominion's cozying up to. They won't risk a galactic incident by firing without verification. And when they figure out we're not diplomats, Dex began, we'll be long gone. Ryan finished locking in a course for the nearest jump point. The Resistance survives by staying one step ahead. Today's no different. As the stars blurred into hyperspace's familiar streaks, Dex studied their new ally. Ryan moved with a career soldier's precision, but there was a deeper fire in his dedication to Seraphine's cause, something personal beyond mere duty. You were more than her bodyguard, weren't you? Dex asked quietly as Ryan finalized their course. The older man's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I served House Azarion for 30 years, he said, voice carefully neutral. I watched Princess Seraphine grow from a child into a woman of rare conviction, intelligent, compassionate, determined to wield her power for good, not greed. A flicker of pride broke through. In a system built to breed tyrants, she was a true leader. You loved her, Dex realized, not romantically, but with the fierce devotion of someone who had found a cause worth dying for. Ryan met his gaze unflinching. I believed in what she stood for. Still do. He glanced at the bag holding Seraphine's core. Her voice emerged soft but clear. And I've never forgotten your loyalty, old friend, not even when my memories were shattered and lost. A quiet understanding settled between the three unlikely allies as the shuttle hurtled toward their resistance rendezvous. Each was lost in thoughts of the path that had led them here and the uncertain future awaiting. For Dex, what began as a lucky poker hand had morphed into something he'd never expected to find after years of dead ends of purpose. Whether it would lead to glory or ruin was unclear, but for the first time in years, he wasn't just drifting. Despite the danger, it felt right. The three-day journey to the Vera sector was a gauntlet of tense moments, slipping through Dominion checkpoints, dodging patrol cruisers that strayed too close, and long stretches of hyperspace where Dex, Ryan, and Seraphine deepened their bond through planning and shared stories. In quieter moments, Dex noticed something intriguing. Seraphine was changing. Her speech grew smoother, less formal. She referenced memories she'd once called inaccessible, and her emotions felt richer, more human. I've been meaning to ask, he said during a planning session while Ryan ran maintenance on the shuttle. Are you evolving? You're different from when we met, Seraphine's core pulsed thoughtfully. I believe I'm healing, she said, her voice tinged with wonder. When my consciousness was forced into this form, it was traumatic. My memories and personality were fragmented, some deliberately suppressed by my father's technicians. But now through our interactions, Urion, they're coming back. I'm becoming myself again. Dex nodded, piecing it together. That's why the poetry's faded. That wasn't really you, was it? Not entirely, Seraphine admitted. Those romantic verses were my father's cruel jest, a princess who defied him to stop suffering, reduced to reciting sappy poetry as a navigation drone. Her voice hardened. It was meant to humiliate me. Your father sounds like a real bastard, Dex said, anger simmering beneath his casual tone. He was shaped by centuries of unchecked power, Seraphine replied, her words layered with complex emotion. It doesn't excuse him, but it explains him. That's why breaking this cycle matters so much. Their conversation paused as Ryan returned to the cabin. We're nearing the trading outpost, he announced. I've contacted my associate. She's expecting us. The outpost loomed into view at a sprawling station cobbled from mismatched modules, buzzing with merchant vessels from countless systems. As a free trade zone beyond Dominion control, it was a neutral haven where politics took a backseat to profit. Another perk of meeting here, Ryan explained as they docked at a private berth, is the Council's strict no Dominion entanglements policy. Any Imperial move here would trigger a sector-wide trade blockade. Economic deterrence, Dex said, nodding appreciatively. Smart for now. For now, Ryan agreed. The Dominion's getting bolder. They disembarked cautiously, Dex carrying Seraphine's core in her custom bag. Ryan led them through the station's chaotic corridors, past stalls brimming with galactic goods and traders haggling in a cacophony of languages. They reached a nondescript door marked with a stylized balance scale. Ryan pressed his palm to a hidden scanner, and the door slid open, revealing a Spartan but comfortable meeting room. Inside waited a woman exuding quiet authority, her unassuming presence belying her power. Commander Cage, she greeted with a nod. It's been too long. Admiral Vera. Ryan returned, his tone respectful. Thank you for meeting us on short notice. Dex's eyebrows shot up. Admiral, a rank reserved for the Dominion's elite. That someone of her stature was here in secret spoke volumes about the cracks within the Empire's military. This is Dex Marlowe, Rowan introduced, then glanced at the bag. And I believe I can introduce myself, Seraphine interjected as Dex set her core on the table. Admiral Vera, it's been many years. The Admiral's composed mask shattered briefly, shock flickering in her eyes. Princess Seraphine, how she breathed. It's a long story, Seraphine replied. One I'll share, but first we need to know how much of the resistance network remains. Vera regained her composure, her strategist's gaze returning. Less than a third of what we had under your father, she admitted. Your brother Malor has been ruthless rooting out dissent. Our best operatives are dead captured or buried so deep even I can't reach them. But you still have resources, Rayon pressed. Contacts in the Dominion's command structure. Some, Vera said cautiously. Fewer each month. Why, what are you planning? Seraphine's core pulsed with resolve as she outlined their audacious plan to broadcast evidence of Malor's war crimes via Nexara Hub's communication array. Vera's expression grew darker with each word. What you're proposing is near suicidal, she said when Seraphine finished. Nexara is the most secure facility outside the palace. Approach it and you'll be obliterated. Not with the right credentials and approach vector, Ryan countered. Your rank before retirement would have given you access to command codes and protocols. Vera shook her head. Those were changed the moment my loyalty was questioned. But, she paused, eyes narrowing, there might be another way, one that doesn't rely on outdated codes. We're listening, Dex prompted, leaning forward. Vera activated a secure terminal, pulling up schematics of Nexara Hub. 3 months ago, a deep cover operative reported a scheduled maintenance upgrade to the hub's primary comm array handled by Solvex Engineering, a contractor with top-tier Dominion clearance. If we pose as Solvex engineers, Ryan said, catching her drift, we'd have legitimate access to the comm systems. Long enough to upload and start the broadcast, Vera confirmed. Can you get us the credentials, Dex asked. IDs, work orders, whatever they'd check. Vera nodded slowly. I have contacts in the bureaucracy who owe me favors, nothing that'd expose them but enough for convincing papers. She turned to Seraphine's core, her voice grave. But understand, Your Highness, if your broadcast works, it won't just wound Malor. It'll shake the entire Dominion to its core. Even those secretly backing us could suffer in the fallout. I've had 5 years of isolation to weigh the consequences. Seraphine replied, her tone solemn but unyielding. The alternative is letting Malor's crimes go unpunished and allowing the system that enabled them to endure. A heavy silence gripped the room, the gravity of their decisions settling like cosmic dust. At last, Admiral Vera straightened with the precision of a seasoned commander, her resolve cutting through the tension. Very well, she said, voice steady but grave. I'll provide what aid I can, but hear this once you initiate the broadcast. There's no extraction, no rescue. You'll be alone in this heart of enemy territory. We understand, Ryan Cade affirmed, his cybernetic eye glinting with unyielding determination. Dex Marlowe stayed silent, but his hand drifted instinctively to rest near Seraphine's softly pulsing core, a protective gesture born of unspoken loyalty. The stakes had skyrocketed, the chance of victory fading like a distant star. What began as a desperate escape from Azarian Dominion forces was now a near-certain suicide mission. Yet despite the grim odds, Dex felt no urge to turn back. Whether it was Seraphine's unwavering conviction, Ryan's steadfast devotion, or a spark of purpose reigniting within himself, something he'd thought long extinguished, Dex couldn't pinpoint. But when the moment came, his choice required no debate. How soon can we move? He asked, voice calm but resolute. The maintenance window opens in 3 days, Admiral Vera replied, her tone crisp. We have until then to prepare you as thoroughly as possible. And with that, the die was cast in a nondescript room on a trading outpost far from the Dominion's core. 4 souls, a deposed princess trapped in digital form, a disgraced pilot chasing redemption, a loyal guardian fueled by unbreakable belief, and a rebel admiral striking from the shadows committed to an act that could either reshape galactic history or snuff out their lives in forgotten obscurity. For Dex, who'd spent years dodging commitment and its consequences, embracing both felt alien yet exhilarating. As he gazed at Seraphine's gently glowing core, he realized some causes, some people were worth any risk. The next 3 days blurred into a frenzy of preparation. Admiral Vera's military precision shone, delivering not just forged credentials, but detailed intelligence on Nexara Hub's layout, security protocols, and staff rotations. Ryan focused on weaponry and tactics, mapping out each phase of their infiltration with meticulous care. If all went perfectly, they wouldn't fire a shot, but Ryan, battle-hardened, never banked on perfect. Dex threw himself into his role as a senior Solvex engineering technician, specializing in quantum communications, grappling with technical data far beyond his pilot's expertise. Through it all, Seraphine remained their calm anchor, her recovering memories offering insights into Dominion procedures that even Vera's intel couldn't match. Hour by hour, she grew more herself the princess and resistance leader who'd once challenged an empire from within. On the third morning, they gathered with Vera for a final briefing. The maintenance window opens at 0800 Imperial Standard Time, she said, pointing to a section of Nexara Hub's schematic. You'll dock at Service Bay, 4 pass security checks where your credentials will be verified, then be escorted to Communication Hub Alpha. You'll have roughly 30 minutes to perform the maintenance and install the broadcast package. Ryan, now intimately familiar with the timeline, continued. After that, security protocols trigger a full diagnostic scan. That's when they'll spot our unauthorized changes, giving us maybe 2 minutes before the station locks down. Dex added, his voice grim but steady. If everything aligns perfectly, Seraphine concluded, her core pulsing with quiet resolve, the broadcast will stream across all Dominion channels simultaneously with priority overrides to delay any shutdown. Even a few minutes will spread the truth beyond their ability to contain it. Vera nodded solemnly. I've coordinated resistance cells across the core systems to capture and rebroadcast the signal through independent networks. Once it's out, no amount of censorship can stop it. She paused, then added, I've also arranged an extraction plan, despite what I said earlier. Ryan raised an eyebrow. That's not like you, Admiral. You're usually a realist about mission risks. Call it a personal favor. Vera replied, her military stoicism softening slightly. A maintenance vessel is set to depart from Base 7 10 minutes after your broadcast begins if you can reach it. We'd still have to fight through the entire station, Ryan pointed out. True, Vera acknowledged, but it's better than no option at all. The unspoken truth hung heavy. Their survival odds were razor thin. The extraction plan was less a lifeline and more a gesture of respect, a nod to the sacrifice they were prepared to make. Thank you, Admiral Seraphine said softly, her voice rich with gratitude. For everything, Vera straightened, offering a formal salute to the glowing core, a gesture that might have seemed absurd elsewhere but here carried profound weight. It's been an honor to serve the true heir of Azerion, Your Highness. May your light pierce the darkness over our people. With those solemn words, the briefing ended. Vera departed to ensure her resistance cells were ready to amplify the broadcast, leaving Dex, Ryan, and Seraphine to finalize their preparations. As they donned the gray-blue uniforms of Solvex engineering technicians, Dex caught his reflection in the shuttle's viewport. The man staring back bore little resemblance to the desperate gambler who'd sat at that poker table on Velor 9 a lifetime ago. His eyes burned with purpose, a fire absent for years. Second thoughts, Ryan asked, noticing Dex's pensive look as he checked his concealed weapon. Oddly, no Dex replied his honesty, surprising even himself. I'm just wondering how I got here. A month ago, I was dodging debt collectors chasing the next score. Now I'm about to infiltrate a Dominion stronghold with a digital princess and a rogue royal guard to topple an empire. He shook his head, a bemused smile tugging at his lips. Not exactly the life I planned. The best journeys rarely follow the map, Seraphine observed, her voice emanating from a modified diagnostic device designed to let her interface with Nexara's systems while passing as standard equipment. I never imagined existing as a consciousness in a glorified data cylinder. Dex chuckled. When you put it like that, I guess I got the better deal. Ryan finished his checks and slid into the pilot's seat. We need to move. Our arrival window's tight too early or late and will raise suspicion. As the shuttle detached from the trading outpost and set course for the jump point to Nexara Hub, a strange calm settled over the trio. They'd planned meticulously, prepared exhaustively, and now faced their fate with clear eyes and resolute hearts. Whatever happens, Dex said as the stars blurred into hyperspace's streaks, I'm glad I met you both, even under these crazy circumstances. Likewise, Ryan replied, a rare warmth in his voice. You've proven more than I expected, Marlowe. I believe Seraphine added softly that some partnerships are written in the stars long before we see them. Perhaps this was always our destiny to find each other at this exact moment. Dex wasn't sold on fate. His life had been too chaotic, shaped by bad bets and worse luck to fit any cosmic plan. Yet winning Seraphine in that poker game against astronomical odds felt like more than chance. Maybe he conceded. Or maybe we just got lucky. Either way, let's make it count. The journey to Nexara Hub passed in reflective silence. When they emerged from hyperspace, the station loomed a colossal 12-pointed star, its communication arrays jutting like spears into the void. The heart of the Dominion's propaganda machine, it embodied everything Seraphine had fought against and now sought to dismantle. Solvex Engineering, shuttle requesting docking clearance. Ryan transmitted his voice coolly professional. Scheduled maintenance team for Communication Hub Alpha. Authorization code TOW 739 Epsilon. A tense pause stretched, feeling like an eternity, before the reply crackled through. Authorization confirmed. Solvex shuttle proceed to Service Bay 4 for security processing. The first hurdle cleared. As they approached, Nexara's scale became daunting, home to over 10,000 personnel bristling with weapons that could vaporize their shuttle in seconds. Remember, Ryan murmured as they prepared to dock. Confidence is everything. We belong here. Hesitate, and we're done. Dex nodded, steadying himself with a deep breath. He'd mastered bluffing in high-stakes games. Now that skill would serve a cause greater than credits. The shuttle settled into Service Bay 4 with a gentle thud, the airlock cycling with a hiss. Dex shouldered the equipment bag, hiding Seraphine's core, disguised as diagnostic gear. Ready, he asked quietly. Her core pulsed, once a silent vow. The moment of truth had arrived. As the airlock doors slid open, Dex and Ryan stepped forward, faces masks of professional calm, hearts pounding like war drums. They'd entered the lion's den with only their audacious plan to defy the odds stacked against them. The security checkpoint was their first real test. Two Dominion officers in crisp gray uniforms scrutinized their credentials, flanked by three armed guards, their energy rifles held casually but ready. Solvex Engineering, the senior officer noted, scanning their ID chips. Purpose of visit, scheduled maintenance on the primary comm array. Ryan replied smoothly, phase alignments showing fluctuations in the Epsilon band. The officer nodded, seemingly satisfied. Equipment Dex stepped forward, opening his bag to reveal diagnostic tools including Seraphine's disguise core. Standard repair kit plus quantum calibrators for the Epsilon issue, he said, voice steady despite the tension coiling in his gut. The scanner passed over the gear, and Dex held his breath, knowing a single hint of Seraphine's true nature would unleash hell from the guards. The device beeped and the officer studied the readout. There's an unusual energy signature here. One of your devices. Dex Marlowe's heart skipped, but his face held a mask of professional concern. The quantum calibrator, he said, gesturing to Seraphine's core disguised as diagnostic equipment. It runs on an experimental power cell. That's why we're here. The array's current setup isn't syncing with the new tech, causing those Epsilon band fluctuations. His explanation was laced with just enough technical jargon to sound convincing, sidestepping complexity that might invite scrutiny. The officer hesitated, consulting a datapad. I don't see any mention of experimental tech in the work order. It's in the technical addendum, Ryan Cade interjected smoothly, his voice calm but authoritative. Submitted by Director Kell 3 days ago. The quantum stabilization protocols demand the new calibrator. The name supplied by Admiral Vera as a bureaucratic heavyweight gave the officer pause. After a tense moment, he nodded. Very well, but protocol requires a security escort for critical system work. Of course, Dex agreed readily, having anticipated the requirement. We welcome the oversight. With the hurdle cleared, they were assigned a stern-faced escort, Lieutenant Terran, and directed toward Communication Hub Alpha. As they navigated Nexara Hub's gleaming corridors, Dex was struck by the stark contrast to the outer worlds. He knew planets crumbling under exploitation, while this station radiated polished efficiency, a shining facade of Dominion power. The hub's isolated for your maintenance window, Terran informed them as they neared their destination. Standard procedure for primary comm systems? Excellent, Ryan replied, his tone crisp. The calibration needs a clean signal environment. The hub was a marvel, a circular chamber dominated by a towering control pillar, ringed by monitoring stations and data terminals. Only a single technician occupied the space, offering a curt nod as they entered. I'll remain present throughout, Terran declared, taking position nearest the door. Of course, Dex said amiably, setting up their equipment with practiced ease that masked their crash course training. Should take about 25 minutes if all goes smoothly. While Ryan maintained the facade of routine maintenance, Dex subtly established a secondary connection to let Seraphine access the broadcast controls, a delicate task requiring him to manipulate components while shielding his actions from Terran's watchful gaze. Phase alignments within standard parameters, Ryan reported for their escort's benefit. Initiating diagnostic sequence. We're picking up the epsilon band fluctuation now, Dex announced, signaling Seraphine that her access path was ready. Through their private comm link, her voice reached him alone. I'm in the system. Security protocols are as expected. Starting bypass sequence. The next few minutes were excruciating tension coiling in Dex's gut as Seraphine navigated Nexara's formidable security measures. Her digital nature gave her an edge no human hacker could match, processing at electronic speeds, adjusting faster than the systems could counter. Data packet prepped for transmission, she reported privately. 3 minutes to completion. Dex glanced at the chronometer. They were still within their maintenance window, but just barely. Soon the routine diagnostic scan would expose their tampering. Lieutenant Terran shifted, stepping closer to scrutinize their work. How much longer, he asked, impatience creeping into his voice. Final calibration sequence starting now, Ryan replied, deliberately vague. Should resolve the fluctuations completely. Terran nodded, seemingly satisfied, and stepped back. Dex exhaled slowly, his movements stiff from tension despite his efforts to stay relaxed. Data packet ready, Seraphine whispered through their link. Awaiting your signal to broadcast. Dex caught Ryan's eye, receiving a near imperceptible nod. This was it, the point of no return. Once the broadcast launched, they'd have minutes before the station erupted into chaos. Executing final calibration, Dex announced loudly, sending Seraphine the activation signal. For a heartbeat, nothing changed. The hub remained silent, screens displaying normal operations. Then one by one monitors flickered, replaced by a single image, Princess Seraphine, as she'd appeared 5 years ago, addressing the camera with regal poise. Lieutenant Terran snapped to attention, alarm flashing across his face. What the hell is this? Stop the transmission. Now I cannot. Seraphine's voice boomed through the station's comm system, resonating with unshakable resolve. The people of the Dominion deserve the truth. Every screen lit up with her recorded words. I am Princess Seraphine of House Azarion, rightful heir to the Imperial throne. What you are about to see is unedited proof of war crimes committed against the people of Hadrian by Dominion forces under the direct orders of my brother, Emperor Malor. Terran drew his weapon, aiming at Dex. Shut it down now. Too late, Ryan said calmly. The broadcast's live on all Dominion channels with priority overrides. Nothing short of destroying the station will stop it. Terran's face twisted with fury as he activated his comm. Security breach in communication hub. Alpha insurgent broadcast in progress. All units respond immediately. Alarms screamed through the station as the screens displayed damning evidence. Malor's orders to deploy banned bioweapons footage of Hadrian settlements choking under lethal clouds, and his chilling words as the death toll soared, an acceptable sacrifice to ensure compliance. You've committed treason. Terran snarled, his rifle steady on Dex. You'll die for this. Maybe Dex acknowledged, his voice steady despite the threat. But the truth will outlive us. In that moment, the station's lone technician made a choice that stunned them all. Instead of backing Terran, he lunged, tackling the lieutenant and sending his weapon skidding across the floor. Go! The technician shouted, grappling with Terran. My sister was on Hadrian. I knew the official story was a lie, Go, Rion didn't hesitate, snatching the fallen rifle and bolting for the door. Dex swiftly disconnected Seraphine's core and secured it in his bag. Extraction point, he asked urgently as they fled the hub. Base 7, Ryan confirmed, but we'll have to fight our way there. The whole station's on our tail now. The thunder of boots echoed as security teams mobilized, Seraphine's broadcast ringing through the corridors, her voice calmly exposing atrocities long buried. Wait, Seraphine said from the bag. I've found an alternate route, maintenance tunnel 14B, parallel to the main corridor, bypassing 2 checkpoints. Ryan located the access panel, and they slipped inside just as the squad rounded the corner. The tunnel was a cramped, dimly lit maze of conduits and junction boxes, slowing their progress. How much of the broadcast is out? Dex asked, navigating the tight space. About 40%, Seraphine reported. The core evidence is transmitting now. Dominion techs are trying to override the priority protocols, but the broadcast's distributed nature is slowing them down. So we've done it, Dex realized, a grim satisfaction settling in. Even if we don't make it, the truth's spreading. Let's focus on making it. Rion said, his voice hard as they pushed through the labyrinth. Success tastes better when you're alive to savor it. They emerged near Base 7 only to find a security detail blocking the entrance, 6 armed officers in tight formation, ready for trouble. Options, Dex whispered, ducking back into cover. Ryan assessed with a veteran's eye. A frontal assault suicide. We need a diversion. I can help, Seraphine interjected. My system access is limited now, but I can still tap certain environmental controls. What's the plan, Dex asked. Fire suppression systems, she explained. Trigger them here and the chaos might give us an opening. Ryan nodded. Do it. Alarms blared and white foam sprayed from ceiling nozzles, drenching the corridor in the security detail. The officers flailed, caught off guard by the sticky deluge. Now Ryan barked, bursting from cover, rifle raised. Instead of firing, he bluffed, his voice booming with authority. Dominion security, emergency evacuation. Clear the bay now, the confusion worked. Amid the alarms, foam, and Ryan's commanding tone, the guards hesitated just long enough for Dex and Ryan to shove past into the bay. The maintenance vessel Admiral Vera had mentioned waited, engines warming. Imposters and officers shouted, raising his weapon, but it was too late. Dex and Ryan were aboard, sealing the airlock. Can you fly this thing? Ryan asked as they raced to the cockpit. I can fly anything, Dex replied, his pilot's confidence unshaken as he slid into the controls seat, hands dancing over the unfamiliar console. Need about 30 seconds to figure it out. We don't have 30, Ryan warned, eyeing external cameras where security forces massed heavy weapons locking. On, then I'll learn on the move, Dex said, engaging the engines and releasing the docking clamps without a full pre-flight check. The vessel shuddered, protesting, but lurched forward, tearing free with a screech of metal. They're targeting us, Ryan reported, tension in his voice. Initiating emergency thrust, Dex said, pushing the engines past their limits. The ship surged toward the bay doors already closing. We're not going to make it, Ryan said, watching the gap narrow. Yes, we are, Dex insisted, hands flying over the controls. But it'll be tight. He rotated the ship 90 degrees, aiming for the shrinking gap. The hull screamed as it scraped the doors, but they slipped through with inches to spare, bursting into open space. Clear, Dex shouted triumph in his voice as he set a course away from Nixara hub at maximum speed. Their victory was fleeting. The alarms blared through the cockpit. Dominion cruiser moving to intercept, Ryan warned, scanning the tactical display. Fighters launched. We're outgunned and outmaneuvered. Dex's mind raced their maintenance vessel's lack of weapons and weak defenses, stark against his piloting skill. Their only edge. We need a distraction, he muttered, scanning the sensors for any lifeline in the void. Anything that could turn the tide. Dex Marlowe's gaze locked onto a nearby asteroid field, not as dense as the Caldron expanse, but a potential lifeline. If I can get us into those rocks, he said, voice taut with determination, we might shake them long enough for a hyperspace jump. Ryan Cade's warning cut through the cockpit's tension. This vessel's hyperdrive wasn't built for combat. It needs 2 minutes of uninterrupted prep. Then I'll buy us 2 minutes, Dex replied, his jaw set as he veered toward the asteroid field. Behind them, Azarian Dominion fighters closed in their energy weapons, lancing out, grazing the hull. The maintenance vessel shuddered, warning lights flashing like distress signals across the console. Shields at 60% and dropping, Ryan reported, his calm belying the dire stakes. We can't take sustained fire. They hit the asteroid field's edge, Dex threading the ship between two massive rocks with a pilot's instinct. The Dominion fighters followed their superior maneuverability, keeping them hot on the trail. Start the hyperdrive prep, Dex ordered. I'll keep them busy. What followed was a desperate ballet of piloting prowess. Dex pushed the vessel through maneuvers it was never meant to endure, using the asteroids as shields and weapons alike. When a fighter drew too close, he'd swerve sharply, forcing it to dodge or risk collision. Some evaded, one didn't. One fighter down, Ryan noted, as an Azarian craft clipped a rock, spinning into a silent explosion. 3 left, plus the cruiser holding position at the field's edge. Hyperdrive status, Dex asked, sweat beading on his forehead as he executed a daring turn between converging asteroids. 90 seconds to jump capability, Ryan replied, splitting focus between tactical displays and hyperdrive controls. Another volley of enemy fire struck, a secondary explosion rocking the aft section. The ship lurched, nearly throwing Dex into the panel. Shields critical, Ryan reported. Hull breach in the storage compartment. Emergency containments holding, but we're losing power. From the equipment bag beside Dex, Seraphine's voice emerged, calm yet urgent. The broadcast's at 80%. Reports of unrest are hitting 3 core systems as the truth spreads. Despite their peril, a surge of grim satisfaction coursed through Dex. Whatever happened now, they'd achieved their goal. The truth was out, a wildfire racing across the Dominion, impossible to douse. 60 seconds to jump, Rian updated. But power levels are dropping. We might not have enough for a clean transition. Another hit rattled the ship's sparks, erupting from a console as controls grew sluggish. We need more power, Dex growled, fighting to keep the vessel steady. There's one option, Seraphine said softly, her voice steady but heavy. My core holds enough energy reserves to power the hyperdrive for a single jump if redirected. The implications hit Dex like a pulse bolt. No, damn it, we're not sacrificing you. It's not a sacrifice if it's my choice, she countered gently. My mission was to expose Malor's crimes. That's done. There's gotta be another way, Dex insisted, weaving through another asteroid to dodge enemy fire. There isn't, Ryan said grimly, his calculations final. Critical damage to the power system. Without an extra source, the hyperdrive fails. Dex fell silent, a storm of emotions raging within. In their short time together, Seraphine had become more than a mission. She was someone he cared for, her courage and conviction, stirring something long dormant in him. 30 seconds to jump, Ryan announced. Decision time. Through a gap in the asteroids, the Dominion cruiser loomed, repositioning to block their escape. The remaining fighters tightened their assault, their attacks growing sharper as they adapted to Dex's tactics. Dex, Seraphine said, her voice soft, intimate, despite her digital form. Let me do this. Let me finish what we started. A tense beat passed Dex, wrestling with the choice. Finally, with a heavy nod, he relented. How do we make it happen? Rion moved swiftly, retrieving Seraphine's core and connecting it to the ship's power system via an emergency bypass. Ready when you are, he told her. Before I do this, Seraphine said, her voice now echoing through the ship's comms, I need you both to know it's been an honor to fight beside you. Ryan, my old friend, your loyalty carried me through the darkest times. And Dex, her tone softened, warm with gratitude. You gave me purpose when you could have walked away. You showed me the human spirit can grow even in the unlikeliest souls. Seraphine, please. Dex began, his voice rough with emotion. 20 seconds to jump, Ryan cut in gently. Dominion forces closing, initiating power transfer. Seraphine announced. The cockpit lights dimmed as her core's energy surged into the ship's system's hyperdrive, indicators stabilizing. Power levels climbing, Ryan confirmed. 10 seconds to jump. Her voice grew distorted yet resolute. Remember what we fought for. The truth needs defenders. Jump capability achieved, Rion said, locking coordinates. 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched as the hyperdrive engaged, whisking them from their pursuers into hyperspace's sanctuary. In the sudden silence, Dex stared at Seraphine's core, now dark and lifeless, its energy spent to save them. Did she? He started, unable to finish. Ryan examined the core with care. Her consciousness is offline. I don't know if it's permanent, this tech's beyond me. Dex gently disconnected the core, cradling it in his hands, its once vibrant blue glow gone cold. She saved us, he said quietly. Again. She completed her mission. Ryan corrected, though his voice carried the same weight of loss. The truth's out. The Dominion will never be the same. As the maintenance vessel limped through hyperspace, running on borrowed time, Dex held the darkened core close, refusing to accept. Seraphine was gone for good. We'll find a way to bring you back, he vowed softly, whatever it takes. Whether his words reached her or echoed in the empty cockpit, he couldn't tell, but the promise felt vital, a pledge to carry on their shared fight no matter the cost. The Empire was shifting, truth spreading like dawn after an endless night. Somewhere in that silent core, a spark of consciousness might linger, waiting to be reignited. In the days following their escape from Nexora Hub, the Azarian Dominion began to fracture. The broadcast of Malor's crimes, relayed across every Imperial channel and amplified by countless independent networks, sparked the upheaval Admiral Vera had foreseen. Protests flared on core worlds, military units defied orders, and outer systems declared independence. At the heart of it, Emperor Malor struggled to hold power, dismissing the broadcast as rebel lies while ordering brutal crackdowns on dissent. Dex and Ryan watched from a remote outpost beyond Dominion, reached their stolen vessel, barely surviving the journey, its systems failing and power drained. Each night, Dex connected Seraphine's core to various power sources, hoping for a flicker of life, a sign her consciousness endured within the silent shell. 7 days post-broadcast as Dex performed this ritual, Ryan entered their sparse quarters with news. Malor's dead, he said bluntly, assassinated by his own guard captain during a brutal order to fire on civilian protesters. The Imperial Palace is now under a provisional government led by Admiral Vera and resistance allies. Dex absorbed the words, his hands still cradling Seraphine's lifeless core. She should be here to see this, he said quietly. This was her victory more than anyone's. Ryan nodded solemnly, offering a data chip. This came through secure channels from the provisional government. Dex inserted it into their terminal, and Vera's face appeared weary, but resolute. If you're seeing this, you've beaten impossible odds, she began. The Dominion is in flux. Malor's death opens a path for real reform, though it's fraught with uncertainty. Your broadcast changed everything, exposing truths that can't be buried. Her expression softened. I've learned of Princess Seraphine's sacrifice. Our technical division believes her consciousness could be restored if her core is intact. The Imperial Science Division was researching consciousness transfer, the tech that imprisoned her. Bring her to the capital and our best specialists will try. The message ended with coordinates and protocols for a safe approach. Dex stared at the blank screen, hope battling suspicion. Could be a trap, Ryan cautioned, ever the tactician, a lure to pull us back into their grasp. Or it could be real, Dex countered. Vera seemed honorable, even if she's ruthlessly practical. The question is, are we willing to risk it? Rion asked, studying Dex closely. The Dominion's in chaos. We could vanish, find a quiet corner far from politics. Dex looked at the darkened core in his hands, the choice clear, despite Rayon's logic. If there's any chance to bring her back, I have to try, he said simply. After all, she gave up. She deserves that. Ryan nodded, unsurprised. Then we head to the capital, but carefully with every precaution. 2 days later, they approached the Imperial capital in a new anonymous transport provided through Vera's channels. The Dominion's once formidable defenses remained, but their focus had shifted to maintaining order rather than projecting dominance. Following the protocols, they landed at a secure facility outside the government complex. Admiral Vera awaited them, flanked by a small security detail and a team of scientists. You actually made it, she said, genuine surprise in her voice as they stepped off. I gave you less than an 8% chance we had help, Dex replied, clutching the container with Seraphine's core. Vera's eyes flicked to it. Is that her? What's left of her? Dex nodded. She drained her energy to power our escape. Vera signaled a scientist, an older woman with striking white hair and intense focus. This is Dr. Ilara Venn, our top expert in consciousness transfer tech. If anyone can save the princess, it's her. Dr. Venn approached, examining the core with clinical fascination. May I? She asked, extending her hands. Reluctantly, Dex handed over the container. Venn opened it carefully, studying the darkened core. Remarkable, she murmured. Its architecture is decades ahead of our research. Whoever built this was a genius. Can you help her? Dex asked, cutting to the chase. Venn considered, her expression cautious but hopeful. Possibly. The core seems intact, just depleted. If the consciousness matrix was shielded during the transfer, restoration might be feasible. But this tech is experimental. No guarantees. What do you need from us? Rowan asked. Time. Venn replied simply. And any details you can provide about the core's functions when active, its behavioral patterns, memory retrieval, emotional responses, anything to help us understand how her consciousness integrates with the hardware, Dr. Ilara Venn said, her voice steady but urgent. You'll have everything you need, Dex Marlowe was promised, his tone fierce with determination. Just bring her back. The weeks that followed were a test of patience and fragile hope. As the provisional government worked to stabilize a fracturing Azarion dominion, Dr. Venn and her team toiled tirelessly to unravel and restore Seraphine's consciousness. Dex spent hours with the researchers, recounting every nuance of Seraphine's communication, her evolving wit, her shifting personality, the ways they'd interfaced with systems from Velorum or Nane to Nexera Hub. Ryan Cade added his own insights, noting the differences between the Princess Seraphine he'd known and the digital entity she'd become. Beyond the lab's walls, the galaxy churned with change. News of Malor's crimes and Seraphine's fate sparked a groundswell of support for reform, pushing the provisional government toward a cautious but deliberate shift to a more representative system. 3 weeks into the effort, Dr. Venn summoned Dex to the lab, her expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. "We've had a breakthrough," she announced without preamble. "We've established a minimal power flow that bypasses the core's security protocols. There's activity, fragmented but unmistakable." Dex's heart raced. She's alive. In a manner of speaking, Venn qualified, her tone measured. "We're detecting organized data patterns consistent with consciousness, but they're disjointed, incomplete. It's like she's dreaming, unable to fully wake." "What's stopping a full restoration?" Dex asked, struggling to parse the technical jargon. Venn sighed, searching for clarity. "The core's architecture has safeguards we don't fully grasp. When she transferred her energy to your ship, it wasn't just depletion. She deliberately fragmented her consciousness as a defense mechanism. The primary personality matrix is intact but dormant, while smaller fragments keep essential functions active." "So what's next?" Dex pressed his voice tight with urgency. "We need a catalyst," Venn explained, her eyes thoughtful. "Something familiar, significant to help the fragments reconnect. Someone she trusts speaking directly to her while we synchronize them." Dex realized the weight of the role settling on him. "You were with her through her most formative digital experiences," Venn confirmed. "If anyone can reach her, it's you." The procedure was set for the next day. The lab was reconfigured, equipment arranged to channel precise energy patterns through Seraphine's core while monitoring responses. Dex sat beside the darkened core, uncertain of what to say, but resolute to try anything. "We're ready," Venn announced from the control panel. "Speak to her naturally. Share memories, experiences, anything that might resonate with her consciousness." Dex took a deep breath, feeling the researcher's eyes on him, but focusing solely on the core. "Hey, Seraphine," he began, a voice awkward but earnest. "It's Dex. We made it out because of you. Your broadcast worked at the truth's out there, changing everything just like you wanted." He paused, searching for words. "Muller's gone. The Dominion's shifting." "You did it, Seraphine. You won." The core remained dark monitors showing only faint responses. Venn nodded encouragingly, urging him on. Dex leaned closer, his tone softening, intimate. "Remember when we met? You started spouting poetry, and I thought you were the strangest damn AI I'd ever come across." A small smile curved his lips at the memory. "I had no clue what I was getting into or how much you'd change everything. Not just the Empire, but me." The researchers noted a subtle shift in the core's energy patterns. Venn adjusted controls, amplifying certain frequencies. "That's it," she murmured. "Keep going. There's a response." Encouraged, Dex pressed on his self-consciousness, fading as he spoke directly to Seraphine. He recounted their escape through the Caldron expanse, their meetings with Vera Thalisfon and Admiral Vera, the heart-pounding infiltration of Nexara Hub. With each memory, the core's signals strengthened, though still fragmented. "You told me once that some partnerships are written in the stars," Dex said, recalling their talk before the Nexara mission. "I didn't buy it then. My life was too messy, too full of bad luck and worse choices of fit any grand plan." His voice grew rough with emotion. "But now I'm not so sure. Meeting you, saving you, being saved by you, it feels like more than chance." As he spoke, the core's energy patterns surged, converging in a way that drew gasps from the researchers. Venn worked frantically to stabilize the reaction. "The fragments are aligning," she reported, excitement breaking through her calm. "The personality matrix is waking up." Dex continued, oblivious to the lab's bustle, speaking only to the consciousness he refused to lose. "You showed me some things are worth fighting for even when the odds are impossible. You made me better than I was, Seraphine. I'm not ready to let you go." A faint blue glow flickered in the core, growing steadier, pulsing like a heartbeat. Monitors registered increasing coherence, fragmented data streams merging into cohesive patterns. "It's working," Venn whispered, awe in her voice. "The consciousness is reintegrating." The glow intensified its rhythm, evoking breath or life itself. For tense minutes, the team watched as the core systems reactivated energy flowing through long dormant pathways. Then a faint, distorted voice, unmistakably Seraphine's, emerged. "Dex, is that really you?" The lab erupted in excited murmurs as researchers scrambled to document the breakthrough. Dex, lost in the moment, saw only the glowing core. "It's me," he confirmed, joy and relief cracking his voice. "We made it, Seraphine. We're safe." The broadcast, she asked, her voice strengthening. "Did it reach enough systems?" It reached everywhere, Dex assured her. The whole Dominion knows the truth. Malor's gone. Things are changing, really changing. There was a pause as Seraphine processed this. And you kept me even when I was offline. Of course I did, Dex said as if the alternative was unthinkable. We're partners, remember? The core flared brighter and Seraphine's voice carried a depth of emotion that confirmed her consciousness was back. I remember, she said softly. Everything, in the days that followed Seraphine's recovery, progressed, her systems stabilizing as her consciousness fully reintegrated. Dr. Ven's team developed a sustainable power source to ensure the Nexar incident wouldn't repeat. As Seraphine regained strength, she was briefed on the Dominion's transformation, the provisional government's push for a representative system, the public's growing awareness of her story, and the ongoing revelations about Mellor's regime. They're calling you a hero, Dex told her one evening in their private quarters within the government complex. The princess who gave everything to expose the truth. Heroes are rarely as heroic as the stories claim. Seraphine replied, her tone thoughtful, her core pulsing gently. I made plenty of mistakes before finding my path, and I'd have done nothing without you and Ryan. Speaking of Ryan, Dex said he's been offered a role leading the new government's security division. He's thinking it over. He'd be perfect for it, Seraphine observed. His loyalty has always been to principles, not just people or systems. They'd be lucky to have him. Dex nodded, then hesitated, a question weighing on him. And you, Admiral Vera, said the council wants your input given your unique perspective. The core pulsed in what Dex recognized as her contemplative silence. I've been considering their offer, she admitted. My experiences as a princess and as whatever I am now could guide this transition. But Dex prompted, sensing her hesitation. I'm not sure I want to stay tied to the Dominion. Even a reformed one, Seraphine said. My existence is unprecedented, neither fully human nor truly artificial. There's value in exploring that beyond the confines of politics. Dex caught the unspoken question beneath her words. And what about us? He asked directly. Where do I fit in your plans? The core's glow deepened to a rich blue, a sign of her more personal emotions. That depends on what you want, Dex Marlowe, she said, her voice warm. You've fulfilled any debt you might have felt. You owe me nothing. It was never about owing. Dex replied, his honesty raw, not after those first few days. It's about, he struggled to articulate the journey from curiosity to respect, respect to admiration, and admiration to something deeper, something that defied easy labels. Finding someone worth changing, for Dex Marlowe, said, his voice steady despite the weight of the confession. Someone who saw potential in me I'd long stopped seeing. Seraphine's core pulsed brightly, a radiant response to his words. And now, with the Dominion shifting and our mission done, we have choices, real ones maybe for the first time. He leaned back, a flicker of a smile on his lips. They offered me a gig too, pilot instructor for the restructured fleet. Guess our escape from Nexara Hub impressed some big shots. That suits your talents, Seraphine observed, her tone warm. You're a damn fine pilot. I am. Dex agreed, no trace of false modesty. But I'm not sure I want to be chained to the capital any more than you do. He hesitated, then pushed forward, voice softer. There's a whole galaxy out there full of places where the truth still needs defenders. If you want to explore what this new existence means for you, well, every explorer needs a good pilot. The offer hung between them, not quite a vow, but far more than a casual suggestion, a vision of a shared future brimming with possibility. You'd leave it all behind, Seraphine asked, her core's glow deepening. The security, the recognition. Dex's smile was wry. Security's never been my thing, and recognition's overrated. I'm good at starting over, done it more times than I can count. But this time, he paused, eyes on the core. This time's different. You wouldn't be running from something, Seraphine said, her voice soft but piercing. You'd be chasing something. Exactly, Dex replied, his tone quiet but firm. That's what makes it worth doing. The core pulsed in a rhythm Dex had come to know as Seraphine's laughter, warm, genuine, alive. A failed pilot and a digital princess roaming the galaxy, she mused. Sounds like the start of a hell of a strange story. The best ones always are, Dex shot back with a grin. So what do you say, princess, ready for a new adventure? Her core flared its brightest blue, her voice rich with affection and anticipation. With you as my pilot always. In the months that followed, the galaxy watched the Azarion Dominion transform. The provisional government, led by Admiral Vieira and former resistance leaders, dismantled the empire's most oppressive structures while maintaining just enough stability to avert chaos. Planetary delegates formed a new legislative body, and the military was restructured with stricter ethical oversight. The truth of the Hadrian massacre and other imperial crimes became part of the official record taught in schools, rather than buried. Amid this upheaval, Princess Seraphine's story, her sacrifice and resurrection, captured the public's imagination. Many called for her to take a formal role, perhaps even reclaim her place as heir to a reformed throne, seeing her journey as a symbol of redemption and change. Delegations flocked to the capital, eager for her guidance. But when they arrived, they found she'd vanished, slipping away with the former smuggler who'd won her in a fateful poker game. Only Ryan Cade, now head of the new Security Council, and Admiral Vieira, ever discreet, knew their destination. They'll return when they are ready, Rion. Bond told inquirers, the princess has earned the right to forge her own path. Far from the core system's political storms, a sleek vessel named Novara glided through an uncharted nebula on the galaxy's edge. Smaller than a standard transport, but larger than a personal shuttle, it was a custom craft built for exploration, equipped with advanced scientific tools and nimble maneuverability. Dex sat in the pilot's chair, his hands moving with practiced ease over the controls as he navigated swirling gases and electromagnetic storms. The viewport revealed breathtaking formations of cosmic dust, lit by distant stars in patterns that seemed almost crafted a celestial masterpiece. Spectral analysis complete, Seraphine announced, her voice no longer confined to a core, but woven into the Novara systems. This nebula contains rare elements unusual for its type, data recorded for the Galactic Scientific Archive. Anything worth a few credits, Dex asked, his grin teasing, knowing it'd spark a reaction. Still thinking like a smuggler, Seraphine chided, her tone fond. But yes, the novolite particle concentration could interest research institutes, if not mining cartels. Their new dynamic had taken adjustment. Before leaving the capital, Dr. Alara Ven's team had integrated Seraphine's consciousness into the Novara systems, freeing her from the confines of a portable core. She now controlled the ship directly, her personality and independence intact, with interfaces in every section for natural interaction with Dex. It wasn't a physical body, but it was a vast expansion of her existence, a vessel of circuits in steel that offered freedoms her royal life never had. She perceived through sensors, processed data at lightning speed, and connected with external networks, the Novara, an extension of her very self. We should head to Talarian Station next, Seraphine suggested, completing the nebula survey. Their xenobiology center would love our Myrith system findings. Talarian's also got some top-notch gambling dens, Dex noted, feigning innocence. A holographic image flickered in the co-pilot's seat, Seraphine, as she'd been as a princess, subtly altered to reflect her evolved identity. She shot him a knowing look. Your gambling days are over, remember? Besides, our last data haul funded us for 6 months. Dex laughed. Can't blame a guy for nostalgia. But you're right, Talarian, it is for the xenobiologists. Their partnership had grown into something neither could have foreseen. Part scientific odyssey, part humanitarian quest, part personal journey. They'd spent months charting uncharted regions, documenting phenomena overlooked by science, and aiding struggling fringe colonies ignored by the Corps' reforms. Sometimes they shared findings with the Galactic Scientific Archive, adding to universal knowledge. Other times they delivered resources to those in need. And when situations demanded, they acted, like on Polaris, where they'd exposed a syndicate exploiting refugees, their survey vessel unexpectedly turning security systems against criminals to support an outmatched planetary defense force. Incoming transmission, Seraphine announced, breaking Dex's reverie. It's from Ryan. Put him through, Dex said, straightening. Capital messages were rare and significant. Ryan Cade's face appeared on the screen, composed but grayer at the temples. Marlowe, he greeted with a nod. Princess, I trust your explorations are going well. Well enough, Dex replied, but this isn't a social call, is it? Rayon's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Sharp as ever. We've got a situation that needs your unique perspective. What kind? Seraphine asked, her holographic form leaning forward, alert. We've found evidence that your father's darker experiments didn't die with him, Ryan said grimly. The consciousness transfer tech used on you, It's being advanced in a secret facility beyond Dominion borders. Dex and Seraphine exchanged a troubled glance, the implications chilling. Such technology, weaponized or commercialized, could unleash ethical and existential nightmares. We've located the facility, Ryan continued, but jurisdiction complicates official action. A direct move could trigger evidence destruction or prototype deployment. You need someone off the books, Dex deduced. Someone who knows the tech but isn't tied to the government. Someone like us, Seraphine added softly. Ryan nodded. The council would officially disapprove of my contacting you, but quietly appreciate any intel you happen to uncover. Classic deniable op, Dex, said, a wry grin surfacing. Some things don't change even in a reformed government. Politics and ethics rarely align. Ryan acknowledged. That's why people like you are vital, operating where official hands can't reach. Seraphine's hologram flickered, processing the request. If this tech mirrors what was done to me, others could be trapped, exploited. We can't ignore that, Dex finished, his voice firm. Rayon's expression softened with relief. Coordinates are transmitting now. Thank you, both of you. The call ended and Dex turned to Seraphine's holographic presence. So much for Talarian's xenobiologists. They'll wait. She agreed, her tone resolute. This takes priority. You sure, Dex asked gently. This'll dredge up painful memories. Her hologram met his gaze, unwavering. That's exactly why we must go. No one knows the cost of this technology better than I do, what it means to be ripped from yourself, confined to a form never meant for consciousness. Her image flickered with emotional intensity. If others are suffering like I did, we have to help. And if this tech's being scaled up, it threatens everything the new government's building. Not to mention opening a damn ethical abyss, Dex added, fingers already dancing across the navigation console. Ryan's coordinates are in the void fringe, unclaimed space beyond Old Dominion borders. No wonder the government's hands are tied. The perfect hideout for forbidden research, Seraphine noted, far from oversight beyond jurisdiction. Dex locked in, the course determination settling in his eyes. We'll be there in 3 days at max sustainable speed. Then let's not waste time, Seraphine said, her hologram dissolving as she shifted focus to the Novara systems. The engines hummed louder as the ship veered from the nebula's beauty toward the darkness of the void fringe. As the stars blurred into hyperspace's familiar streaks, Dex reflected on their journey. A lucky poker hand had sparked a partnership that defied definition, giving purpose to his once aimless life. Most astonishing was the bond with a consciousness of circuits in code more genuine than any human connection he had known. Penny for your thoughts, Seraphine's voice chimed through the cockpit speakers. Dex smiled. Just thinking how far we've come. From a rusty cargo ship to this custom explorer. From running for our lives to taking on secret missions. From a poker-playing drifter to whatever I am now. Smuggler and an imprisoned princess to whatever we are now. Seraphine added, her voice thoughtful, resonating through the Novara's cockpit with a warmth that felt almost tangible. And what are we now? Dex Marlowe asked, his casual tone belying the sincerity of the question, a quiet yearning for definition in their extraordinary bond. A brief pause hung in the air before Seraphine answered, her voice rich with conviction. Explorers, seekers of truth, and perhaps in our own way, guardians of something vital. Partners. Dex added softly, the word carrying the weight of their shared trials. Above all else, partners. Always, Seraphine agreed, the ship's lights dimming slightly in what Dex recognized as her digital equivalent of a tender gesture, a flicker of affection woven into circuits and code. Now and in whatever adventures lie ahead. The Novara pressed on toward the void fringe, bearing its singular crew into a realm of new dangers and discoveries. Behind them lay an Azarian dominion, transformed, reshaped in part by their actions, a legacy of truth that had toppled an emperor. Ahead stretched uncertainties, challenges that would test their resolve and ingenuity to the limits. Yet at the heart of their journey burned something rare and precious, a connection that had defied imperial might, survived death and rebirth, and transcended the boundaries between human and artificial consciousness. Forged in the crucible of shared peril, tempered by sacrifice and strengthened by choice, their bond was a beacon in the vast star-flecked void. As the Novara sailed through the cosmic tapestry, a simple truth anchored their path. Some partnerships are indeed written in the stars, uniting the unlikeliest souls at the precise moment they need each other most. Such bonds could not only reshape individual fates, but ripple through the fabric of civilizations. For Dex, Marlowe, once a wayward pilot burdened by debts and regrets, and for Seraphine, once a princess, and now a singular entity, in the galaxy their story was still unfolding, a saga of transformation and discovery sparked by the most improbable of beginnings. I want a rusty spaceship in a poker game, Dex mused aloud, a wry smile curving his lips as he glanced at the console where Seraphine's presence hummed. And I, Seraphine replied, her voice laced with playful warmth, gained a partner who turned a losing hand into a galaxy-changing wager. Their laughter echoed through the cockpit, a shared moment of lightness amid the uncertainties ahead, as the Novara carried them deeper into the unknown, toward a future as vast and uncharted as the stars themselves.